at me. Still in the show, that's the crook in me. They want me gone with the hook in me. Asking why is he here like I shouldn't be. I've been on grind since I 10,000 hours the motto. They see the bag is coming out and flocking to me like I won the lotto. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Get it, don't mindset. Ay, back with a vengeance, back on the grinds, back to the business. Ay, God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Ay, best keep distance, all of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance. Oh, yeah, no playing it safe. I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say? You ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Got no time to waste. Can't be with me if you're not at my pace. You're not at my level, you're not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah. Get it, don't mindset. I gotta get it, don't mindset. I gotta get it, don't mindset.
Hello and welcome once again for the 7th time. Yeah, that's right. 7 already of BMW Sim Ignition, where before every single BMW Sim GT Cup, we warm you up by getting into the red hot world of BMW esports and updating you on everything that is going on, not just in sim racing. We've got a cool one today. Before we do that, though, it's kind of fitting that maybe we give you an update. There's been 6 rounds already in the books of the BMW Sim GT Cup, which means we're past the halfway point, and therefore we need to look back at what happened in our last race, round 6. Let's take a look at the highlights.
The BMW SIM GT Cup headed to the Ardennes Mountain, and in qualifying it was all about Fire SimSport. Pole position converted into an easy race lead for them. Rather calm at the start of the race at the front. In the mid-pack it was chaotic as per usual. Logitech Gioltas Esports, Kova, Apex Racing Team, Team Redline and RAG all fighting for track position. That was going to be important in a fuel mileage race. 7 kilometers into this one though, the drama started. German sim racing, nothing they could do on the run into the bus stop chicane. Turned around, a sign of more carnage to come. Vendaval Sim Racing taking it almost 4 wide on the run-up into La Source. Arnage's number 5 and one of the Romain Grosjean Esports entries coming off worse for wear there, while a subsequent bit of drama at La Source saw Logitech Gioltas Esports turn around and stricken in the middle of the track. But up the hill and working their way to the front, BMW Team Redline, Red and Maximilian Benecke looking to go back-to-back in this BMW Sim GT Cup. Fought their way past Fire, whose race pace was not as impressive as qualifying. Fire would watch on as BS Competition and Fildenaires wibble-wobbled their way up into second spot on the track. From there though, it was about to descend into mayhem. The 88 of RAG was about to see it all unfold. First pushed wide through Stavilo 1, and then on the run up through Curve Paul Frere, just wide leaving room. RAG off into the gravel, tagged around already sideways by Urano. They watched the field, slipped on past, and then the 88 car saw more drama into the bus stop chicane. The 88 got on through, but in the rear view mirrors, German Sim Racing tagged around by Volante Aztec SimSport Racing. The two of them would bring out puffs of smoke, and then a horrific rejoin would claim the number 5 Arenage competition machine, the second race in a row that the number 5 has retired with significant amounts of damage. While Kova were about to be sliding their way on the run up into the Lecombe chicane, pit stop strategy did start to change up the game. Redline and BS Competition were able to break away on the entry into the pit stop cycle, but as a result of all of the fighting, the Apex Racing Team battled with BMW Team Redline Blue and Redline Purple to fight for the second and third steps on the podium. And while it was a fun fight, the reality was the focus was at the front of the field, where Benecke and Holtzman, back-to-back winners in the BMW Sim GT Cup, rolled their momentum on the road to BMW Sim Live.
There you go, a day at the spa. We spoke to Max Benecke. We had an interview with him just before that race, as well as Niels Nayok. But obviously, Max jumped in the car. He said he was going to go for the win, and they nailed it. We'll take a look at the point standings, because that means he and Patrick Holzman have 2 in a row, and they're moving up that order around. Remember, yes, they share the car for these races, but the drivers are individually scored because they all individually qualify for BMW Sim Live at the end of the year. So despite that they're teammates now, they'll be competitors then. But as you can see, yeah, Chris Lullum, Johnny Vecchio still leading the way. Philip Danes and Rainer Talvor not far behind. Redline's got 2 teams in there, Apex and Kova looking pretty solid as well. So there you go. Team Redline obviously having a heck of a season. 3 cars in contention, therefore 6 drivers, with only that of BS Competition getting in between them. Phil Dennis and Rainer Talvor at the top of the board for them, respectively. Apex and Kova in there as well. But that's only round 6 accounted for. Now we've got round 7. We leave Spa and head not too far away, just the neighboring border, through into Germany and get on track in Hockenheim. But first, we've got to get on track with something very cool. We said this is a show in which we dive into everything that is BMW esports. And right now, Fnatic Esports is one of the most celebrated and most accomplished teams in the entire esports realm. They've got their 18th birthday coming up, and they've got some cool things they've been doing with BMW. So we're going to jump into that. All right, well, here we are then for the Fnatic special, joined by someone very special within that organization. It's Javier Zafra Drodo. I'll call you whatever I can say the most easily and not butcher the Spanish pronunciation. But yeah, very special time coming up for Fnatic at 18 years old.
Yeah, sure. It's been 18 years already. It's a very special moment for us. Obviously, very excited about being able to share that moment with our fans and our partners, which is obviously the way we have to give them back all their support and everything that they are doing for us. Still cannot reveal too much about it. It's a bit secret, but keep it tuned for that because it's going to be amazing for sure.
Yeah, and a quick math in my head that takes us back to very early days of esports, 2004, and that's pretty spectacular. That's a long time in esports. I mean, obviously the brand has outlived many of the games that it was built upon, but two of the most famous, obviously Counter-Strike, one of the most successful organizations of all time, undoubtedly having huge success there and having a huge fan base even still, despite that they are in a rebuilding phase, and then obviously the LEC, where you guys have been dominant, and we'll get into that, but there's been a lot of success. But what's so special about Fnatic that's made it last that long? Because there's been other orgs that have been successful and now they're gone.
Yeah, I think as you were saying, Fnatic, it's about legacy, being there from the very beginning, and yeah, I feel it's the team that the first esports fans in Europe and the Western in general vibed with, and had those first special moments of supporting a team, having fun, celebrating the first victories, the first World Championship of League of Legends, the first majors of Counter-Strike. Like, all this is what have made Fnatic special over the years. And since then, by just being there from the very beginning and being a successful org in terms of competitive results, I think it's been on our DNA to be leaders and innovating constantly on and pushing esports industry and the scene in general forward, to make improvements, to keep it doing our own way, but always focusing on that innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of a cool point, because there was, at the start, it was kind of one of the, I mean, it's a term that we use now because of the legacy, but an OG, in that they came in raw. They were not all the structure you have now, certainly, but I've always kind of persevered in that sense with success. Interestingly enough, though, just to go back to the LEC thing, I said you've been a dominant team for a long time, but never, I don't mean to say this way, because it sounds like I'm sticking a knife into you here, but never won a title. What's the reason? Because you guys have been so good, and yet just not able to get that last little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we have won so many European titles in League of Legends, and we are actually one at the top of the teams with most titles in League of Legends in Europe. It is true that since we are in LEC, we have been 1% away from winning actually many titles, because we have been in, I think it's 4 out of 6 of the last split finals. So it is, we are for sure a team that is constantly at the top. We are also the team globally with most world's qualifications in the history of League of Legends. So that means that we are consistently in the top. But it is true that in the last years, we have been that 1% away from winning some titles. Sometimes you need to have that 1% luck in certain moments. And I think that has not been on our side. But still, we obviously have to be self-criticism. We have to do some self-criticism and keep improving in the things that we believe that has not been going perfectly for us. And I think we are doing it. And I feel really strong and really confident about this coming split, in this summer split that we are in the middle right now.
Hey, it's crazy. Like you say, most qualifications to Worlds, 4 out of 6 of the last split finals. I mean, the consistency is there. It's almost heartbreaking at this point. But like you say, so many European titles as well. And we know that the West, going to Asia can be a huge challenge in League of Legends. What's the goals this year then? Like you say, you're so close. Is it sort of focusing on LEC, qualify again for Worlds? What's the main objective?
I mean, the main objective is for sure winning. I think we are ready to do that. I think we have an amazing team. I think we did a really solid run through the spring split, but we had some challenges, and I felt we came to the most important moments a bit run out of gas in terms of confidence, in terms of, we had some challenges that affected us more than it should probably, but still the team is like incredible in terms of talent, in terms of ambition and hunger. So yeah, for sure, the first one is winning LEC. Qualifying to Worlds is always a goal for us. It's getting harder because there are teams investing into making that a goal also for them, and obviously it's only 3 slots that we have, so it's complicated in that terms. But in reality, we have consistently been qualifying. So for us, it's not only about qualifying to Worlds, again, it's winning the split first and then trying to go as far as possible in Worlds. But I would say that at least being in the top 4, that means in Worlds being one of those contenders to win the title. Then you can win it or not, but we want to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting, like you say, the 3 slots, but more and more of the Western teams vying for them. Perhaps, again, my background, Counter-Strike, but, you know, some of those allocations can be adjusted based on performance over time. So maybe it's a good thing that there's more and more teams vying. But hey, look, I think it's reasonable goals again, and I think that's a fair statement. You know, you've got to get across that line. I don't mean to sound like I'm sticking the knife in. I know how tantalizingly close you've been and how impressive it is to be that close that many times, but sometimes that makes it worse in some ways. But best of luck.
It actually does.
Yeah, I imagine for the players especially, right? I mean, it's just so close and yet so far.
And sometimes the players just change, and because we have not had over those 4 finals that we have played in the last years, it is true that it's not the same players, but it's in some cases the same stuff, and yeah, that hurts for sure, and it's something that we end up very disappointed. But at the end of the day, there is also a positive note that you always have to take into this, that it's a lot of teams are fighting for these same goals, and we are consistently at the top, and that's good. Yes. Like last year, for example, G2 couldn't qualify to Worlds, and it's an organization like G2 which is massively successful, and still they couldn't make it. So that means that speaks about how strong the competition is. Yeah, the competition is in this case.
Well, and I was going to say, at least you're not Carlos and went G03, you know, instead of G20. But yeah. I love it. Anytime I get a chance to poke at Carlos, I will. But no, and look, sometimes it'll make it all the more sweeter when you do get that victory, right? So, hey, look, best of luck for you guys. From a perspective of structure in the team, I mentioned that you guys are OG starting out when it was very raw in esports, obviously 18 years, that speaks for itself. Now you're working with major brands, and there's numbers that I could name, but here we are with BMW. The BMW partnership's a pretty significant one in esports now because there's more and more teams. You mentioned G2 as well involved in that. You know, T1, big organizations. What does it mean for Fnatic to be working with BMW?
I mean, working with a brand like BMW, it's incredible. It has always been at the top of that kind of brands that you want to work with. Not only because it's a really big brand and obviously the what they represent, but it's also how they are entering in the industry and how aligned they are as a brand in their own area, but also in how they are entering in esports with performance, with innovation, that are the lines, the values that we are following in everything that we do. So yeah, we feel the synergies are really, really strong, not only from that representation of having a sponsor, but also on how that sponsor works in their own area.
Yeah, it's interesting. And certainly there's some big benefits that come with that. You guys are currently running the Pimp My Rivalry BMW esports team car campaign. It was a logo design for the new iX1 3D logo. It's pretty classic. You guys went with sort of the Fnatic colors on that one. Talk me through sort of that design process and how do you like it?
I mean, I really liked it. I saw the design from Chris Rathbone with the help of text and the logo. It's like, of course, it features our black and orange and some of the mesh patterns that we are using on our designs, and especially the lining of that we are using as a motion for us, which is spam this tactic to help Fnatic, and some of the designs that Chris has included there. But it looks beautiful, and obviously it's a really good initiative to have, like involving also people from the in-game and all this in those designs.
Yeah, and obviously this is an open design concept competition. Fans can vote for it on the BMW Esports Twitter. But yeah, they can pick their favorite. You know, maybe why should they pick yours?
I mean, we are the better team for sure. So and we have one of the biggest fan bases, so we just need to do a call of attention to them and tell them to go straight into the BMW Twitter and into the BMW webpage and be able to vote for it, because I actually think, like, again, the design is really nice. It's as you were saying, it's sober, but still like includes a lot of our design concepts, and I think it's very aligned with our branding. And I think right now this year we are having a very beautiful branding concept. So yeah, I think it's reasons enough.
Yeah, and obviously that's with all the other pimp my rivalry for a reason, the BMW rivalry. So there'll be the other teams that have their respective cars, but I love it. There you go. You guys are based in London, which I always found interesting as well. I mean, I know that Sam Matthews is there, and that's where the org has its roots, but yet in Counter-Strike, it's always been so Swedish. For the most part, there's been iterations of the team that have brought in different players internationally. And then with League, you've had some different bases as well, but the HQ's in Berlin. Why Berlin?
Well, basically, first of all, it's because we are a very global brand, and therefore, even if we are London-based initially, like right now, we are in many other parts of the world, so we need to keep that global vision. Secondly, our competition of LEC takes place in Berlin, because there is where we have the Riot Studios, where we go to compete on a weekly basis. And League of Legends is our biggest title, so that requires also a bigger structure, and it makes more sense that we were in a better place, leveled up, more focused on performance, and that can have all the resources that we are putting around the players together in one place.
Well, speaking of that one place, the reason I asked this question is obviously because Berlin is the base. You've got a new facility, the BMW and Fnatic facility. We're going to take a look at it right now. That's pretty special. Obviously, anytime you get a new home base, it's exciting for the staff. It's exciting for the players. It's state of the art. People want to be there to work. It's kind of motivating, I imagine, for a lot of you guys. How big is this place?
Actually, you cut me here. I don't know the exact square meters, but I think it's around. I think it's around like 700 square meters. It's pretty big, but for me, I think the most important is that it features everything we need from a performance standpoint. We kind of wanted to mimic a bit some areas and some parts of the traditional sport, like having a locker room where the players come in, take their training clothes, enter in the day, and then when they are going out, they can again take out their clothes, and that way you enter in the mentality of, okay, this is work, this is performance, this is training, and this is serious stuff. Apart from that, obviously, we have our practice room, review room, we have a streaming booth, we have a gym, so people can activate themselves out of the game, and we do a lot of stuff. We are also working with Wim Hof, like breathing techniques in order to help them to prepare for the games. We have a content room, we have co-working areas, meeting rooms, a full equipped kitchen, and obviously a couple of leisure areas where there are sofas, there is a ping pong table where the players can also relax and disconnect from the game. So all these combined, it kind of, as I said, featured everything that we needed in order to level up our performance. And performance is not only the setup of the players, it's everything that surrounds their day-to-day.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I love it. You get a sim rig in there too, I'm sure, for them to jump on.
Yeah, we have that too.
Perfect.
So we are still on the process of getting it finally installed. So we have not been able to try it yet, but we are very excited because we feel it's going to be really fun to make competitions and have the players do some games with that, and we will be able to do some fun content. So really excited about that too.
Yeah, super, super cool. I think that's awesome. Is this exclusive then to the League team, or is this a whole facility for all of the Fnatic family?
So initially it's designed to hold permanently our League of Legends team right now, but we have a second gaming room, like a second setup for, as we were saying, Fnatic is global. We have several teams around the world. There are some that are very focused on one area, on one region or whatever, but there are some others that are like traveling around. So it was important for us that we could welcome all the teams that want to go there for practice, want to go there for a boot camp, and spend some time in Berlin too. I think that was also the intention when building this facility.
Very cool. Very cool. You touched on a lot of it, obviously the benefits of being in Berlin with Riot there and the team there. But what's the advantage of sort of having this office structure? I know a lot of teams in the past went with team houses, and now we're seeing that kind of get away from it and get to these sort of central areas where you have the staff there as well to oversee things. And what was sort of the lead decision to get to this facility? Was it an issue with an old structure, or was this just a need for evolution?
I think both. First of all, as I was saying at the beginning, we like to push forward for that innovation and be leaders in that angle. And we were, I think, the first team that made a division between the personal life of our players and the professional life. So our players are living on their own, and then there is an office. Former office was still like a really big apartment in Berlin that was kind of made into an office, but it was not designed as an office for our League of Legends team. And in Berlin, you have some challenges with the internet, and especially like in the city center of. We were experiencing some challenges with that office, so this was an opportunity. But of course, we are also working on, as I was saying, on leveling up all the areas of performance. So for us, it was a goal anyway, that we are moving into a better office that can level up everything that we are doing. So both things matched, and BMW really wanted to also get involved in this project. So we are very thankful for that. And they have been a massive help for this. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. What has BMW brought to the table to make this all come together?
I mean, BMW has brought a lot to the table in general, not only for this facility, but it's a partner for us that obviously brings like financial support in general, and it has also been the case in this facility, of course. But obviously, as a sponsor, this is the most straight way that all the sponsors help. But on top of that, they are helping us to do like really cool content that our fans are enjoying a lot, and our players also enjoy doing. They have also, of course, the facility, as we were saying, that it was financially supported by them, but also in terms of the design, how we could level up some areas from a performance standpoint, like their experience and their background in many other areas that have to do with innovation, with technology. That has helped us too, in order to set up everything. Obviously, having cars, which also it's incredible for us, because we have a more autonomy in Berlin. We can move when we are going for team dinners, team activities, when we are going to the studio to play. It feels better to, not only because of the autonomy, the product, of course, the cars are incredibly amazing. But apart from that, it's like we feel it makes more sense, given that we are represented by this brand and we are also representing this brand, that we can go with those cars. It's like, it's really cool. And the whole concept, it's working pretty well with BMW in that regards.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's very cool. I think this sounds like it's ramping up with the BMW and Fnatic sponsorship and partnership, I should call it. It's more of a partnership at this point, I think. Anything else in the future that you guys have planned that maybe we can get a little hint on?
We actually are working very closely in a project that is more connected to the setup of our players. Using that experience and that knowledge that BMW has in general in innovation, in design, in performance. And I think I cannot disclose anymore, but I think we will very soon be able to share some information regarding this. So stay tuned on this, but it's a really cool one, actually.
Okay. I don't know anything about it. So my mind is racing on the possibilities, because there's many, like you say, with what BMW innovates and does. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us, Javier. Yeah. This has been a good chat. And look, anytime we can get more insight into what's going on in Fnatic, I think that's awesome. And best of luck this year with the goals.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. And every time that I can give you some insights that might be helpful, I am more than welcome. You guys are more than welcome to just ping me and chat again. It's a pleasure to be with you guys here.
So cool to speak with Fnatic, anyone in that organization. They're also knowledgeable. They're all on the same page. I love it. Javier coming in and really giving us an update on everything that's LEC, especially that very cool facility in Berlin. And I hope I get there to check it out at some point in time, because it looks to be absolutely state-of-the-art, and that will certainly be a morale boost and a motivation boost for everyone in that organization. Very, very cool. And obviously BMW, the driving force behind that, pun very intended, to get that rolling and get it going for them. I think that's very, very cool. And obviously some more stuff on the horizon as BMW continues to develop that partnership, and it heats up as we get ready to heat up. It's time for round 7. We're going to jump into the race. I won't keep you any longer because the cars are getting ready. They're on track in Hockenheim. And on the mic, it's Arjuna and Lewis.
The road to BMW Sim Live heads into its final stages as we welcome you to the Hockenheimring for round 7 of your 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup. Last time in the Ardennes Mountain, it was a slipstream affair that saw Team Redline Red head into victory lane for the second time in 2 consecutive races. Today, though, with valuable points on the line, who will emerge on top at a race that is bound to be full of treachery? Hello everyone, and welcome to RaceSpotTV and to BMW Esports, where my name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined once again by the birthday boy Lewis McLeod. And Lewis, what better way to celebrate a birthday with virtual racing here to kick off the day? Some real world racing going on as well that you'll catch up with after, I'm sure. And then Wimbledon as well. It's a smorgasbord of sport, but we know we're excited for a 2-hour sprint about to get underway.
Yeah, kick you and O'Leary out of the booth. Obviously, thank you for jumping in last round, but it is good to be back. I love going racing here in the BMW Sim GT Cup. Of course, last season when we raced around here, it was just 16 cars, but what a thrill ride it was. Obviously, it was the season finale of Season 2 last year as we were getting ready for BMW Sim Live, but it delivered in every single aspect. I'm expecting the same thing here today, but let's be honest, BMW Team Redline Red, they are going to be hard to beat.
Do remember, like Lewis mentioned, 16 cars on the grid at the end of 2021 to seal the grid for BMW Sim Live. It was last lap drama that decided our field of cars. What are we in for here today? Will we see more bumping and banging on the very last lap with all the drivers knowing what's on the line? Let's talk about the schedule. Let's talk about where we've been, where we've still got left to go, because 3 rounds will be left after today as we continue to trot around the globe, off to Barber, then Silverstone, and then over to Suzuka to close out the season. But after a busy couple of weeks, months here, Lewis, the last 3 races coming thick and fast, it spreads out once more. Lots of gaps between the races. It makes things a little difficult for these teams, for these drivers, to make sure they're prepared.
It's tricky because you don't get into the rhythm with everything. You don't get, we've said this before with plenty of seasons where you're racing every couple of weeks. You get into the rhythm, you start understanding the car, you're building it, you make your progress, and you start figuring it out. In scenarios like this, not so much. The last 3 races have been quite close, round 5, 6, and 7, but now we get into the point of having a breather, which means that if you aren't feeling so confident with this, you kind of have a lot more time between the 2 rounds to get up to grips with the car once again, to figure out where you're losing out time. But also, if you're in the rhythm of the car, you don't want that at all, because like for Redline Red, for example, you want to keep this streak going.
And maybe that's where qualifying today is going to be important. Stay out of trouble, stay out of the danger zone. If you're new to BMW SIM GT Cup, let's talk to you about the format. We have prize money on the line today. Over $4,000 to be paid out in today's race. It totals over $42,000 to add to the almost $100,000 we paid out over just 2 days for BMW Sim Live at the end of 2021. Now, it's not all about the top split. For drivers outside of this main field of competition, 250 iRacing credits will be awarded to a random driver, but it's a point structure that pays the points to the teams, but it's all about drivers' classification. No more significant than that is the fastest race lap, which goes to the driver, not to the team. It's meaning that no teammates are really on the same page, Lewis, at the front of our standings.
Yeah, whilst we talk of this as very much a team race, it's about you and your teammate making the most of it. It is a driver's championship. You as a driver score the 25 points for a win. You as a driver score whatever points you can get. And of course, that one fastest race lap point as well. You're the one that's kind of in control of that. Whilst it doesn't necessarily matter about winning the championship here, it's about getting into that top lot, about getting yourself into BMW Sim Live, and about getting yourself as a part of that fantastic event that we've had over the last couple of years. And I'm expecting the 2022 variant to be just as spectacular.
2021 was win you're in. This year it's been about consistency on the road to BMW Sim Live, something that we'll talk about now as we talk about the story of the season. We started on the high banks of Daytona. Gianni Vecchio, Team Redline Blue, 3 years, 3 wins at Daytona to kick off BMW Sim competition. Then we went to the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, where Rainer Talvar made a statement, a 5-second penalty, not enough to stop the Zebras from going to victory lane, and then a couple of weeks later, contact on the last lap. Rainer Talvar filled in as winners once more, this time at Sebring. Then it was the Stealth Black machine of Kova that took victory the next time out as we crisscrossed back and forth around the world. Before, a couple of weeks ago, Team Redline Red, Patrick Holtzman, Maximilian Benecke won once, but weren't content with that when we went to Spa a couple of weeks after Watkins Glen. New colors on this car, the same drivers, the same intent behind them as they made themselves straight down to double-time winners this season. And as a result of all of that, with still 4 races to go, including today, this is how the points shake out. But we look at the top 10. It's not the top 10 that we're really concerned about, Lewis. We don't know the exact numbers going to BMW Sim Live just yet. However, these drivers will be feeling confident. Anyone outside of the top 10, much less so.
Yeah, of course, we can kind of speak about this when it's, so these are the ones that are comfortable. There's plenty of others to play for. There's plenty of others that can sneak a victory on a day like this. Potentially even in a few weeks' time we go to Barber. That's the outcast from the major circuits that we go racing at. But if you feel confident, there is no reason why even now, with just 4 races left to go, we might not see some other random names make their way inside that top 10. For example, let's look at Redline Red, who had struggled to score points really over the first 3 races, with only one decent result really at Sebring. They'd struggled on and off, and yet here they are, 7th and 8th, just 20 points off of the top of the standings.
We saw Kova win a race, none of their drivers inside of the top 10 for the time being. Keep an eye on that as we'll talk to you about qualifying in a couple of moments' time. Here is a look, though, at the venue for today's Round 7 of the 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup. Hockenheim is flat. It is still fast, not as fast as it was once upon a time. There's plenty of passing opportunities, though, here today, Lewis, for drivers to work their way forward.
Yeah, everyone speaks of the hairpin as the major one. You come around the Parabolica into that tight hairpin, and everyone's like, that's the overtaking opportunity. Sure, it's a good one, but it isn't the one. We saw, again, yes, 16-car grid. We saw it in that season finale in Season 2 last year. We saw moves going into the stadium section. We saw it coming into the penultimate corner. We saw it coming into the arena section. We saw it coming into Turn 1. You can get overtakes made around here, which is why, even on this change layout, I'm one of the people that sort of like the earlier 2000s, obviously 90s layout. Better, prefer it much more. This layout, though, is still sick. There's still great racing that can happen around here.
We always talk about Simeon Lynch and the drive in that Valkyrie esports machine at the end of last year to lock him in and his teammate in for BMW Sim Live. Oh, what a treat that was. I think we were so excited we missed a lot of some of the other storylines of that race. Let's talk, though, about the qualifying grid, at least as it stands right now, because with 15 seconds left, it's Kova with 3 cars inside the top 4.
Yeah, it looks like it might be Kova time. They do go quite well around here. They are a very, very strong team. Of course, they are good in this car. They ended up with that victory, of course, in the first ever time limit racing in the BMW M4 GT3 in 2021 in that second season at Imola with Tattler and Pekka Toivonen. They've already won this season as well at the Nürburgring. They're a strong team. We know what they're like in this. With them being first, second and fourth, they're going to be really hard to beat around here, but don't rule anything out.
Well, Go Fast time has come to a close. The time for racing is upon us. Let's go down trackside to run you down through the starting grid for round 7 of your 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup. It's Kova domination in qualifying. Tuomas Tattila in front of Matti Sipilä. The two split by just 300ths of a second. Luca Kita interrupts the party for Urano in the number 90, alongside Oskari Rine in the 770 for Kova. Jamie Fluke will line up inside of Sam Koitot, the Apex Racing team represented alongside Urano, while Carlos Fenelosa puts Altus Esports up in the mix alongside Monaco Esports' finest and the number 1 machine. Another Monaco Esports car lines up inside of Daniel Pashto for the Williams Esports Chill Blast, while Altus and Jordan Caruso find themselves alongside with Kevin Ellis Jr., the second of our Apex Racing team cars. The back-to-back winner, Maximilian Benecke in Team Redline Red, only 2/10 off the pace in qualifying, but when the margins are so fine, he'll line up in 13th alongside Valentin Mandanark for RAG. Redline and RAG again behind on row 8, while Apex Racing Academy and Dylan Becky Shrivens in the Urano HP machine line up on row number 9. Completing the top 20, Sean Campbell and the RAG Junior machine, while Maxime Briant, the rock and rolling Frenchman, lines up in 21st alongside Alessandro Pico, the Williams Esports Ben Q. Jimmy Antunes and Luke McEwen, 23rd and 24th, another disappointing qualifying for the Redline Orange machine, while the first of our Zebras rolls from 25th. A lot of work to do for BS competition. Zenith Esports, Urano, Apex Academy, Zenith and Arnage complete the top 30, and as the cars roll, we scroll through the rest of the names. Redline Ice Blue, Williams Esports Academy, even a Pure Sims car down here in the very tail end of the top 40. A big field, lots of names with some work to do, Lewis.
Yeah, that's always how it is in an event like this. There was quite a big name that had to do a lot of work at the previous round of the season. Of course, that one being Max Verstappen, who worked his way up the order. But yeah, it's possible to do in these cars. We kind of always speak of it. Yes, sometimes it can be hard to overtake. Yes, it's a fuel mileage game. That does not mean, though, that a couple can't take any big risks to work their way up.
The road to BMW Sim Live is winding down. Lewis, who's coming out on top here today?
I mean, easy one, Kova. Got to be Kova, just which one? That is the question, and I'm not going to give you an answer now. I'm just going, it's going to be Gray.
Well, remember, RAG domination in qualifying at the Nürburgring did not play out the way they wanted. It was Kova that emerged on top. Today, they start at the front. The green flag flies for the 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup Round 7 at Hockenheim. Into turn 1, nice and tidy. Top 5 single file, a little bit of side-by-side further back as they all scramble for some track position. The chaos, though, runs down into turn number 2.
Yeah, obviously a little bit of side-by-side, one of the Altus Esports. That's the red car that's just trying to make it stick going down the inside of one of the Williams Esports cars. It'll be Daniel Pastor that's making a little bit of side-by-side. But as we head onto the Parabolica, it's all calm now. But we all know what happens when we get down towards that hairpin. Does Luca Kita absolutely send it on Matti Sipilä?
He's thinking about it. Sipilă's going defensive. A lunge coming from Jamie Fluke. A car into the grass as well as they fly into the hairpin for the very first time. Bit of bumper cars in the mid-pack. Safely through, though. The top 20 emerge from the major danger zone. Some puffs of smoke, but they all survive.
Yeah, a couple of the Monaco Esports cars were going side-by-side off of the hairpin and then drop back in line. And once again, there you go. You can see looking to the outside there. It's Fenelosa trying to get around one of the outside of the Monaco Esports cars going through the arena section. A little bit of a bold move as he's trying to get past Elias Riker. Doesn't make it stick, though. It's quite tricky to pass when you're getting slipstream from the car ahead.
Daniel Paschal will lunge down the inside in towards the stadium section that closes out the lap. It gets tight from here. Altus stepped up 10th and 11th, and all the way off into the gravel goes Carlos Fenelosa.
big moment, big moment. We've seen that one happen time and time again, maybe giving a little bit too much room to the car on the inside, trying to eye up a very large arc through the corner. That car is going to receive an awful lot of damage. I would be surprised if it doesn't come straight back onto the lane.
It held at the front, inside the top 6, no position changes on lap number 1. It's a Kova 1 and 2. Urano breaking up the party with the third of the Kova car sitting down in 4th. Oscari Rene trying to fend off the challenges from Jamie Fluke as Sam Coitert in the Apex and Urano cars that are stacked up behind. Remember the top 10 score points. It's also where Race Control will be taking a look at all the incidents that unfold.
Yeah, can't do any silly business around here. They've got to keep it clean, got to keep it calm. Not overdrive the car, not overdrive their opponents right now. Looking very, very good for Kova still, holding that 1st, 2nd and 4th, which does mean it's a little bit of a tricky position for Luca Kita. Does not mean, though, that they're going to hold on to that through the entirety of the race, but we know what they're like when it comes to their fuel mileage. They are very good on the numbers.
Look how hectic it is back in the pack through the hairpin. They continue to fight. Maxime Briant in the Apex Racing number 97 has lost 6 positions on the start. It's one of those things where you guess right, you benefit, you make mistakes, you go the wrong line, you'll lose out. Briant being bullied from behind is the 22, the FGN pink Georgi Dimitrov powered machine looks to try and get on through. Behind them, Luke McEwen, plenty of strong cars, not looking like they're scoring points.
This is classic BMW SIM GT Cup. Big names down the grid. Luke McEwen's going to dive it straight down the inside. Big move as he's going to also get himself by Dimitrov. Pushes him out on the exit of the Sachs curve, which you can do because there is that sort of that grey concrete on the green concrete rather on the exit of the blue and white curve. You can kind of get away with it as long as there's no contact. There wasn't on that side. Dimitrov gave plenty of room. Luke McEwen absolutely sent it in.
It's a bit of a shock to see McEwen all the way down the field. One boost to Monte. Well, there's a puff of smoke and he's lost a lot of speed. Would assume more chaos for him as we work to complete the opening 4 minutes of this race. Maybe not as dramatic as our opening lap at Watkins Glen. It's picked up in intensity since then, but it is very much single file all the way through the top 20.
Yeah, they're going to use this time. We say this all the time with BMW SIM GT Cup. It's a bit of panic stations at the start of the race. For the first 10-15 minutes, you're thinking, right, how much progress can I make up this, especially for the likes of McEwen, who, remember, didn't qualify well at Watkins Glen as well. Had to spend a lot of the early stages of the race working his way up the order. For a lot of them, they go out on the attack big time at the start of the race. Then we find, like, the middle 20, 30 minutes of this stint, things calm down an awful lot. People get into single file, they get comfortable, and then as we get towards the pit lane sequence, it heads into crazy town as people think, I need to make as much progress before we get into the sequence. I've already saved the fuel I need to. Let's get on with this.
We haven't really talked about weather just yet, so let's do that. And it's cool. 18 degrees in the air, 31 down on the track itself. We talk about tire strategies and the variance that we've seen through the course of the season. No tires, 2 tires, 4 tires, all going to be an option when we get into our one and only cycle of pit stop. A mandatory driver change will be required. It's the car at the front that sets the tempo. Fastest lap goes to Tuomas Tattila.
Yeah, looking very strong right now. Naturally leading the race, leading by almost a second at the moment. Matti Siepela's not being able to keep up with the pace being put on by his teammate, and you kind of ask the question, for Luca Kita, does that mean that we're getting to the point where maybe he'll feel the race victory might be getting away from the Urano Esports camp, and that they need to make a move at some point? It'll be some very healthy points to score right now for a team that could well need it to get into BMW Sim Live.
There's a look down low from Alex Dunn, the young Irishman in the Monaco Esports number 9. He'll look on through on Sam Coitert in the Urano number 91. Nice and tidily done. One of the newer teams to the top levels of sim racing here on the iRacing platform. Remember as well, if you're watching on, you want to join the party, maybe even if you're not in this top split of the BMW SIM GT Cup, want to enter for your share to win 250 iRacing credits, log on to iRacing.com where new memberships are 40% off. Gap building at the front up to 1 full second as Tattila tries to break away. Let's take a look at the first replay of something that happened on the start. It involves Williams Esports and Luke McEwen and an Arnage competition machine. Not necessarily going to be looked at by Race Control. Alessandro Bico is not going to be too happy about that one.
No, like I say, it's a little awkward. You've got McEwen that comes down just a little bit. I don't know, that's a tricky one. You're going 3-wide in the race start, you've got to get aggressive, you've got to get on it. We're on board here with McEwen. You kind of see he jumps the start just a little bit. The Arnage competition could maybe have been a little bit further over. It's a little bit of a tricky one. Obviously, in that scenario, you've kind of got to put the blame with the driver that makes it 3-wide, which would be McEwen, but it's not an easy one.
Car down on pit road already. It is the 22 FGN Pink, so a bit surprised. Maybe something happened to that car in terms of penalties. It's something we should discuss as well. The incident limit for today's race. For those new to iRacing, an incident point system will police the drivers automatically. 25 incident points are allowed. You get 1 incident point for running off the track. A little bit more if you play bumper cars like we were hearing through the hairpin. It's something to keep in mind because the problem is, Lewis, there's no warning. If you go over the limit, there's no drive-through, there's no black and orange flag. It is straight disqualification.
Yep, which we've seen time and time again before. Less, I will say, less so in the M4. I don't know what it is. We saw it a lot in the M8 at the start of 2021, in that first season of 2021. In 2022, and just to be general with the M4, I don't know why, but it has been a little bit calmer on that side. We've not seen quite aggressive uses of the track furniture, quite aggressive uses of each other's cars, if we can put it that way. But yeah, we saw it an awful lot in that M8. I know we're both thinking of the same point here. Suzuka, Gianni Vecchio taking over from Max Verstappen, being given an hour-long stint with 1 incident point. He ran over it at a spoon curve and got an instant DQ. It happens.
Yeah, Johnny, I don't think was frustrated. That's probably the wrong word, but enjoyed that time. Let's take a look at what happened to Carlos Fenalosa. Now, there is some air, but you have to question the wisdom for Jordan Caruso. It's one of those known things when you race from the other side of the world. The speed of light is what it is. You can't do much to change it. Caruso may be forcing the issue a little bit too much. It's Fenalosa that pays the price. I
mean, we've all raced on servers around the world. You know, I've did some Australian supercars back in the day. It wasn't that long ago, it was literally like 2-3 years ago, so I don't know why I'm saying back in the day. But you accept that you're racing on a server that is on the other side of the planet. You've got to kind of play with that a little bit, you know, back off a little bit more, kind of give a bit more, the room needed and a bit more. And it's kind of one of those things that it's amazing that we get to race with each other, but you must understand the limitations. There are always limitations with these kind of things. And understand your position. Maybe sometimes you get away with it and it's lucky. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes someone else pays the bill, though. You've kind of got to think about that side.
Kevin Ellis Jr. sits outside of the top 10 for the time being after a good performance last time out, second on the road in that Apex Racing Team car at Spa. It's a fun fight for second on back with 1 Apex car, 2 Redline machines, while Redline Red broke away, but this time Beneke Holtzman pegs back very slightly. The 71 runs 13th out of the points for the time being, although with the way these races go, who knows what strategy is playing out. Before the moment with Carlos Fenalosa, there was something on the entry in towards that arena section. You'd have to maybe say that's George Garcia turning himself and almost spinning around Urano.
Yeah, I mean, when I say such a high-speed corner, that's the thing, is that it's so easy to trip up over other people. If you're going to try and make it side by side, if you're going to try and make a lunge, if you're going to try and do whatever into that corner with another car, it's almost expected that there might be a little brush between the two of you, and yeah, it's a risky corner to try and pass. There are safer ones to pass out around here that are much easier to get side by side. Right now, you remember how I was saying that Tatalo was pulling away? He'd got about 9/10 of a second, nearly a second lead over his teammate Matti Siepela. That has come back down a little bit. Siepela's been setting some decent pace, has dragged himself back into his teammate a little bit, now sitting comfortable around 7/10 off.
Left side, you see those driver names, you'll see those team names, you'll see the driver names alternating back and forth to pick up with who's in the car for whom at what point in time. But if you want to follow along with live timing and scoring, head to RaceSpot.wtf/BMW. Currently, Altus Esports holds the final position inside of the points with Jordan Caruso behind the wheel of the 43. In front of him, Daniel Pastor. Behind him, Diogo Pinto, now a world champion. How will he absorb the pressure? Yeah. But you can see just how close they all are. They've settled into the tempo a little bit earlier than I thought they would. Usually the first 30 minutes tend to be a little bit hectic, where passes even at the front of the field get made. We're not seeing that so far here today. It may be fuel mileage with these colder track conditions, Lewis, a bigger issue than we thought they'd be.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, we know this is how this race goes, right? It will always settle into a tempo in that first stint at some point. We always see that over the rounds that we've had this year, last year, the year before. It always gets into a point in that first stint. It does calm itself down. It will build itself up, especially in the 15 minutes prior to the one and only pit stop, which we're expecting them to make today. If you make 2 pit stops on a day like this, you're as good as done anyway. But they need to make the fuel mileage stick. They need to back themselves off just a touch, just to make sure that they can get the fuel mileage to past the hour mark, because that makes them very comfortable for that final stint. Apex Academy running a little bit wide of the hairpin, dropping the position to Iran.
That was Yanni Stephen Hayden's in the 198 car. Looks like the other Apex Academy car has had a technical issue because Juan Bustamante has slid all the way down into 43rd position, and a bad day for Apex as well, with the Maxime Brient, number 97, having to come down to pit road and maybe using up its fast repair that they'll get for this race. All teams, all drivers, one single fast repair to be used by that car to get it back to factory fresh condition if you get into all sorts of trouble. Matti Siepola continuing to push the issue and try and close on his teammate at the front. Luke Kikita still runs in third, and on board will jump with Matti Siepola and look on board with him. As always, calm, cool, collected are plenty of these drivers. Although I do wonder, when I see some of them getting a bit more animated, how do the drivers and their managers calm them down? Because of course in modern sim racing, Lewis, it's not just the team with the drivers, you've got many more supporting behind the scenes.
And it all plays an integral part in this race. Like I say, from every angle. It's not even just the running strategy. A race engineer right now, think of it from an engineer's point of view. What information can a race engineer give to a driver right now? Not really anything. Save the correct amount of fuel. Yeah, fair enough. The driver knows how much fuel they need to save. They've got all the data ahead of them. They can see that kind of fuel. It's more about them being like, just keep calm, keep hitting your apexes, you know, like the really simple things, which as much as you think, like, keep hitting your apex, yeah, of course, it's a race driver, of course they're going to keep hitting their apexes. But it's just about trying to find ways that keeps them in the rhythm that works for the driver. And it is very different for every driver. You know, with me, Arjuna, I hate anyone being in my ear when I'm in the middle of a race. Some drivers love it. Some drivers like to have a little bit of a conversation because it kind of keeps their mind active. Some drivers like to go and chase fastest laps because it keeps them active, it keeps them in the race. It's about finding out what works for the driver.
But if someone was in your ear, would it be easier for you to make sure you didn't miss pit road?
Don't say it. Don't.
It's not once, but twice.
It's not the first time I missed pit road because no one said anything.
Yep.
It's fine. It's
sure,
fine.
You're already blaming other people. I see.
Yeah,
I mean, racing drivers.
At least I didn't break the car, mate.
I only broke it a couple of times.
Twice. This is why you don't do endurance racing with friends.
No, it's why I don't do endurance racing, period. 15 minutes done in this race. It has settled down. Kova 1 and 2 with Urano breaking up the stranglehold at the front with a third Kova machine riding in fourth. The Apex Racing team and Jamie Fluke in fifth, with Monaco Esports Finest in sixth. Urano seventh. Another Monaco Esports car back in eighth. Williams and Altus making up the rest of the top 10. The thing that stands out to me when I see that, Lewis, no Team Redline, the best of them, 13th spot.
Yeah, not a good day thus far. Kind of speaking about this, obviously there is a certain other race going on that some teams might not participate at this point. Redline was one. When I first joined, I was thinking, is there only like 2 of them? No, they still have 4 cars out there, and they still have a lot of their very good drivers in those cars. For whatever reason, it just isn't working right now. Here is their highest driver in 11th spot. We'll correct that one. But still, it is none of the top 10. That's the critical thing. They aren't charging at the front of the field as we would expect.
I meant 11th in my defense. I just read 13th because I was trying to figure out where our back-to-back race winners were.
Now who has the excuses?
Oh, I've got plenty of them. But going to the point with Team Redline Red, remember what we saw with BS competition heading into round 4 of the championship. After winning at Road Atlanta and then Sebring, they were looking to be the first team to win 3 in a row across of all BMW sim competitions here on iRacing. It's a very difficult thing to do. We've had so many different winners in terms of drivers, although when you look at the team names, because we've had so many winners come from the likes of Coanda and Redline, it does look as though it's just those 2 and then a couple more that have won. But winning 3 in a row, we talk about consistency, right, on this path to BMW Sim Live. Even those that are winning races find it difficult to stitch together the performances through the course of all 10 races.
But even with Coanda have won 3 in a row, like you said, between 2 different cars. That's the thing. But they won at Silverstone, at Road Atlanta, and then at Nürburgring, which was 3 back-to-back races in season 1. But the thing was, whilst the first 2 of those was done by Mitchell de Jong and Josh Rogers, the third one was in the 16 car race, the season finale, where it was Dane Warren and Mac Backen that took victory. And so it's kind of like that one's almost a little bit skewed even in itself, that Coanda have won 3 on the bounce, because it's kind of like they have, but do you count that third race as being a part of the main season when it isn't it's not the same style of race this is, where it is open to literally everyone to come and take part?
And technically it wasn't the same drivers.
Exactly.
Right, so that I think that to me is what I
find that skewed.
Right, yeah, I find that more interesting though personally than watching the teams that win consecutively. It's that pairing, right? We're not seeing Phil Denez and Reino Talvar at all today. BS Competition bringing drivers with maybe experience more on other platforms here in the sim racing universe. So we'll see exactly how they're going to shake up. But like we said at the start, if you're inside the top 10 right now, like Talvar and Denez are, you're feeling, I'd say, somewhat confident with how things are shaking up for you, albeit we still don't know how many will be heading to BMW Sim Live later on in 2022. Urano and Luca Kita now 1.4 back from Matti Siepola. Jump on board with the Apex Racing team driver of Jamie Fluke. Nice blue lights behind him. Where are our track maps? We're going to riot until Alex Simpson breaks them out.
Is that still in the... Because obviously, so this is I think from watching a lot of Jamie Fluke, normally the camera is on the left of the rig, and normally there isn't this style of light. So clearly they've done a little bit. I was kind of wondering, I was like, is he racing from home? But obviously he's not, because also you can see the rig in the background. But again, agree. Where are my track maps? Maybe mounting it on this side. We've got a wall over there. It looks pretty good to me. Let's get them mounted, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. I do think this is just a different rig within that main facility.
I think so.
That they use. They have 4 or 5, I think, set up at the entryway for the competition space. I think that's where it would tend to be. If you want to learn more about the story of the Apex Racing team, VCO Send It. Great little feature on the rise of one of iRacing's best teams. Now, very much making their mark on some other platforms as well. We see them more and more in the likes of the VCO Esports Racing League compete on those other platforms. We'll see them take to a set of Corsa Competizione later on. Well, I say later on, in a couple of days' time this Wednesday. If you're watching and you're like, I'm an iRacing fan, but I race on Assetto Corsa, there's a way for you to qualify for BMW Sim Live as well. Go and look for the BMW Sim Time Attack. You are going to be fighting against the who's who of ACC, the likes of George Boothby, Niels Naujoks, and so many more. But you can go and race across of 3 different BMW cars as you try and qualify for BMW Sim Live. It's always fun, Lewis, celebrating things at the end of a year, especially when you're paying out more than $100,000.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, BMW Sim Live last year. You know me, right? I don't just commentate on iRacing. I commentate on other simulators and sim racing. We all do now, obviously, with ERL as well, me and you. But still, you know, I like seeing more places in sim racing and all that, and BMW Sim Live also brings them all together. And you know how much I love that kind of stuff, seeing the peak level of competition from 3 simulators, even more than that. It's incredible to see, because there is so much scope, so much talent, so much potential out there that it is incredible to see. I mean, you named a couple of names there. Obviously, we know what Niels Naujoks is like, Gregor Schill and that lot when it comes to these BMWs. George Boothby's a fantastic driver on ACC, normally teammates with Jaroslav Honzik, obviously Jardier. Then you've got the likes of Tobias Pfeffer and Gronewold and that lot. Like, there are some big names there that maybe you as an iRacing fan haven't heard of, and that's fine, because that means that you can now learn these names as well through competitions also a part of BMW. It's such a great family to kind of see growing in sim racing.
And as you saw during BMW Sim Ignition at the start of the show, BMW, more than just sim racing, more than cars, motorsports, Esports is where BMW is right now, and you're watching live on RaceSpotTV and BMW Esports. Make sure to follow on Twitch to stay connected with all the things that we do, including BMW Sim Bash, where we broke out our affiliated BMW Works teams here in the sim racing world, G2 Esports, Team Redline and BS Competition. We took them on a tour of the platforms. We took them around the world as well. What fun that we had. The gaps opened up even further at the front, and it's fair to say Luca Kita out of drafting range, 1.7 the gap. Kova stretching their legs at the front.
Pace is still good from Luca Kita, though. That's the thing, is that the last lap from the top two, from Tatala, it was a 35.948. From Seepola, it was a 35.965. From Luca Kita, it was a 35.967. There was almost nothing. It was hundreds between them. Absolutely nothing. I don't know quite as to why Luca Kita has dropped off the back. Maybe he wasn't quite ready. It's kind of like you know, the Tour de France is on at the moment, and you know, if you have like an attack going up a mountain, it kind of like it takes you a second to realise, oh, hang on, they're going for it now, and then you need to accelerate up to that speed, and then you can kind of keep up. And if you react too late, you kind of lose out on the slipstream, and then you have to work just as hard as they are just to keep up. And I kind of wonder if that's kind of happened, if Kova have attacked just at the right time, maybe even using a little bit of the two cars between them to sort of attack at the same time to build them out a little bit further. It's an intriguing tactic. Whatever has happened, Luca Kita has not been able to quite keep up with those Kova's pace.
Some of the onboards that we've heard as well, you can hear just how much they're lifting into the corners and saving fuel. We always talk about how it's difficult for GT3 cars to even get to the top of the hour. These 2-hour sprint races, in effect, the way that the strategy game plays out. To use an esports term, the way the meta is, you want to pit as late as possible, put as little fuel into that car as you need, have a shorter pit stop as you can, and allow your final driver to really thrash the machine all the way to the very end of the race. First move in a while inside of the top 20. It comes down in 16th spot. Thibaut Casabon slides past Yannick Steven Haydens in the Apex Racing 198.
Yeah, I'd suspect this might actually start kicking off a little bit earlier than expected. We said they all got into single file a lot earlier than expected. Well, I'd expect it to kick off in the same way, because Kova pulling out that gap, it's going to cause some panics for some inside that sort of top 10, where it's sort of allowing the top two to pull away. And obviously for Urano, there's nothing more they can do. They're pushing as hard as they can. For the second car, that's Kova. So it's kind of like they're not going to be too worried about it, because it's their teammate. Oscar Arena is going to be like, yeah, cool, chill. Run away, lads. We'll try and make this a 1-2-3 later on, but you do what you're doing. Let's focus on the 1-2 first. Jamie Fluke, however, who is third in this line, might think, those top two are running away. I need to get on with this right now.
Matti Seepola goes fastest now, second on track, but keeping tempo with the gap opening up back to third. 2 full seconds between second and third. Not sure if Luca Kita is struggling, but those Kova machines at the front have found a different gear. Memories of BMW Sim 120 at Road Atlanta back in 2020, when we saw Tumas Tatala break away at the front and save the fuel that he needed all by himself. This time he might have a teammate for company. It might be a 2-horse fight between the two Kova machines at the front. But as we wind down to be into the halfway marker of stint 1 of 2 in this race, we got to remember, tyre strategy is going to be where things might get mixed up again. And I've been liking this, Lewis, in 2022, the variances that we've had as another R8G Junior car makes some headway, as side by side with BS Competition. This is for 18th position. The best of the Zebras will give up the Ghost for the 188, but last year with the M8 GTE, we didn't see much variance in strategy. This year, we've seen it basically all.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, which was it was a Nürburgring, wasn't it? Where we saw all 3 of the differing strategies. We also saw it at Road Atlanta, no tyres, 2 tyres or 4 tyres. And those, when you get it strategy like that, it is so thrilling, absolutely incredible when you can have it, because we don't know which way it's going to go. Look at the Sebring race when we had that absolutely enthralling last battle between BS Competition and Team Redline. It's incredible when we get all 3 of the strategies kind of working together, and that's kind of where some teams might be going today. Also, I know we've had it on shot a couple of times. Whilst riding on board with one of the Altus esports cars, a good one to kind of ride on board with, because I was going to bring up the brand new R8G livery that we've got, which I think looks really, really good, if a little bit too close to this car.
Well, we have been slandering to some degree the previous RAG liveries, the darker ones.
This looks sick.
This looks great. I like that the darker components are matte now, so they still shine when there's some sun on them. But then you get that DHL Andretti Autosport, you know, shades with the yellow and orange that, of course, Romain Grosjean competes with in the real world. You've got those details at the front end. I'm with you. This is great.
Looks good. Yeah, I saw this first in Formula Pro. They've only just... This livery is brand new, by the way. It is literally the last 2 or 3 days.
No. That's not true.
Oh, sorry. Is it? I thought it was a week or so.
No. Remember, month of May. Oh, you wouldn't, because you were off in Bolton.
The legendary Bolton.
Yes, the legendary Bolton. iRacing Indianapolis fixed 500 race, where we had Christopher Demerit of Team i5G join up with Romain Grosjean Esports to partner the likes of Mehdi Al-Fathi, the team manager, but Valentin Mandanock, many more RAG drivers trying their hand at Indy. It's the first time we saw this split sort of a livery, but it's been appearing on more and more of their cars since then. It is very much a hit, if you ask me. Should also point out for Altus, they are celebrating 4 years as a team right now. So go over to social media. They're sharing the love with you as well. But Altus Esports, we love seeing them work their way forward and continue to grow. One of now 3 sim racing teams with an esports facility / team house.
Yeah, which is becoming a common thing in sim racing these days. I'm all for it. Still need to make my way up to Corby to go and have a look around the Apex facility. It's kind of one of those cool things. It's like we don't need more of this, but we want more of this because it's cool. It's that sort of evolution of sim racing. It's proving that it is moving forward bit by bit. That each time a new team kind of commits to it and makes their own thing, it's like, oh wow, cool. Obviously we've got Apex that have got one, we've got Coanda that have got one, we know that Altus have got one, Redline have one as well. It's a little bit of
in the works.
Yeah, I mean there are people there. That's the thing. The likes of Kevin Siggy and that lot, they do race from there already. But it's not at the point where the entire team work out of there. But it's more of a 50-50 one. But still, I love it. I think it's amazing.
We had that story on BMW Sim Ignition earlier this year when during the Le Mans Virtual 24 Hours in, January, that Rudy Van Buren, who was racing, of course, with Team Redline, had issues at his home and so drove, I think it was 6 hours to Holland where the... to the Netherlands, excuse me, where the
Oh,
I knew you were about to pick me up on that.
Literally about to rip your throat out.
So he drove the 4, 5, 6 hours to the Netherlands, had to then adapt Kevin Siggy's rig to himself and his own body proportions, and then go do a couple more stints behind the car. So the more these facilities grow, the more opportunities they present. For someone like Ian Changuven in the Coanda team, for example, he's been doing a lot of esports from their facility in the last couple of months. Guven now just raced in DTM for the very first time, about to get to that halfway mark of the race. It has been, I don't want to say pedestrian, but I think it's fair to say that if you're inside the top 10, top 15, you're not looking to make any passes. Plenty of fuel saving going on. The more they save, the more the Kova duo at the front are running away. Now 4 seconds, the gap to the lead for Luca Kita.
Yeah, very comfortable at the moment for Sattler and Seepeler right now. It almost seems like it is very much going to be a 2-horse race in the opening half hour complete. They are running away with things right now. Kova looking to make it a 1-2-3, which would be an incredible feat. Also, speaking of things that have never happened before in BMW competition, I don't believe we've ever had a 1-2-3. We've had plenty of 1-2s with Redline and with Coanda, but we've never had a 1-2-3.
No, you're right. You are 100% right. Although technically, if we're going to count BMW Sim Live and BMW...
That's true.
Yeah, then we start getting into the weeds. You remember Redline was almost, top 5 at the first race of Sim Live in 2021. But 20-minute race, I don't think we count that the same as we do a full 2-hour affair. And Tumas Tassler with another fastest lap is trying to pull away from Seepeler. That gap now 8-9 tenths of a second, going back and forth as two machines at the front just trade sectors here and there. Do watch out for that one as well. We wait for the likes of Pinto, Ellis Jr., Beneke to work their way forward. Although having said that, those are 3 drivers that have solid points on the board. If anything, it's the likes of Mandanok, Shrivens, and maybe even Kazabon, 14th through 16th, that might be feeling a little bit more urgency to get up into the top 10.
Yeah, Kazabon's a little bit too far off the rear end of Scrivens. That's when that gap is at the moment, where you can kind of see it at the back of this train. I mean, yeah, I'd suspect a little bit more urgency, if I'm perfectly honest, from the likes of Mandanak and from Scrivens to kind of think, right, we've kind of got to get him on it. But we know what this is like. You've got to focus on your fuel mileage. And there's also a little bit of the concertina effect. When you're at the back of the train, the car ahead of you is getting the same level of slipstream you are. When they back off it into the hairpin, if you don't want to go for a move, you have to back off even more to kind of make sure that you don't make contact with them. And so in that sense, you kind of lose out doubly. So it's why you don't tend to see long trains of like 40 cars lasting for too long. Even if all the drivers are on the same speed, there will always become breaks in the train, just as the minor mistake gets turned up to 11 back in the pack.
Ooh, Matti Siepela will take fastest lap back this time by. We're in for a fun fight between the teammates at the front, back and forth. Lap times traded. Advantage to the 777 that time around. Still watching in the heart of the pack, on board with Valentin Mandanok. The run to turn 2, sweeping right-hand corner. Build yourself up and out of here on the long run down into the hairpin. Your best of the passing opportunities. He's too far back. Beneke's likely too far back as well. Lying back for the time being. We'll see when they elect to start picking up the tempo, when they elect to start pushing the issue. See the gap as well behind the final of the Urano cars, I believe. Dylan Shrivens to Thibaut Kazabon. That gap is now 3 seconds. So in effect, we've got 3 main packs of cars to be focusing on. The top 2, 3rd through 15th, and then 16th on back.
Which is, when we're talking about this, we're talking about the top 10, really, right? The top 10 are point scorers. Everyone behind that, they're battling for the minor places. They're battling, essentially, for glory. And a cheeky little bit of I rating as well, and some safety rating. But they're battling more so for glory at this point. We're focused on the top 10 because those are the point scorers, and that's why we kind of divide them up into those packs. Whilst, yes, there are other packs as well that might as well be intriguing further down the order. Right now, the top 10, the potential for the drivers to get inside the top 10 ends around about 15th at the moment. Those 16th back, there is still the potential for Thibaut Kazabon to be able to close in and sort of make something work here, but that potential is slipping away, is slipping through those fingers very, very quickly, and they need to kind of get on with it because it's sort of one of those points. It's now or never.
See one of the 2 Monaco esports machines inside of the top 10. Yes, it is an official Monaco esports team. They're part of Finest, which is a professional esports organization. So they're not just the Monaco esports finest drivers, but they are the Monaco esports finest drivers. Yes, it's confusing. But
that's very confusing.
It's very confusing, isn't it? But Alex Dunn, the newest member of the team, was just announced, I think it was yesterday, the Irish Formula 4 driver, someone that we've seen in some of the Pro Sim competitions, blurring the lines of virtual to reality, something we see plenty of in iRacing. It's a team that's picking up momentum.
Yeah, and like I say, it only takes a couple of good signings here and there, a couple of bits of potential here and there to really move themselves forward. We speak of all of the, it's so amazing when these real drivers jump into sim racing and stuff. Yeah, sure, it's very cool, but it's kind of one of those things that's becoming more commonplace, especially these days with the younger drivers in Formula 4, Formula 3, and that kind of stuff. I mean, even in my neck of the woods in GB3 and 4, we've got a couple of drivers that take part in sim racing to some sort of, some decent degrees. What we've commentated on in VCO with the ERWC and ERL, with the likes of Alex Samoliar, of course, races in F3, and how fantastic he is on the sims. It's kind of one of those things that I kind of wonder sometimes as a real driver. Obviously, real driving always will take the priority. But knowing that you're damn good on the sim and that there is more money coming into sim racing than ever, you kind of think, hey, maybe there is an opportunity here as well.
You bring up GB3, I of course then have to bring up Max Esterson, who's gone very much from virtual to reality, from 11 years of age picking up iRacing to being Well, a teenager, albeit just under 20, now racing in a Formula 3 machine. It's been a fast old rise, and for him it's very much been assisted in some ways by COVID. The ability to study while being in England and going racing has helped him. Diogo Pinto, first move inside of the top 10 for what seems like an age. 69 of Team Redline Purple shuffles its way into the point. Is it going to usher in the next wave of passing?
It normally starts, again, this is a really silly thing to say, but it normally starts with one. And what I mean by that is it normally starts with one driver just making the move and everyone thinks, oh, right, it's go time, is it? Let's go, go, go. And then it's crazy town. That's why we always kind of see this race be a bit calm in the middle sort of 20, 30 minutes, even of each stint. And then as we approach the pit stop window, people start getting a bit frantic, start getting a bit impatient, and start thinking it's now or never. It's why I'm kind of surprised that Jamie Fluke hasn't been able to get past Ascari Rene, because for the Apex Racing team, their chances of victory is really slipping away, with those top two pulling away 4.5 seconds back to the likes of Luca Keeter. Thomas Tatler is leading, and he has just set, as you can see at the top of your screen, another fastest lap, instantly beaten though by Diogo Pinto.
Pinto is on the charge. It was back-to-back fastest laps, though, for Tatler. You get the sense that even he is turning up the wick. Now 1 second clear of his teammate Matti Siepler, 4.3 clear of Luca Kita in that chasing pack from behind. Siepler almost about to be thrown into some no man's land. Diogo Pinto now looking forward. Daniel Pastor next in line with the first of the Monaco Esports finest cars, then in up in 8th for him. Alex Dunn still sits in 6th, tucked up behind Jamie Fluke and Ascari Rene. Of course, all three Kova cars likely to be running very similar setups, of course. Drivers make a decent chunk of the difference here. A lot of people think, myself included when I first started sim racing, that, oh, if I had a pro-level setup, I'd be a pro-level driver. It's not as simple as that, unfortunately. I learned that out the hard way.
I learned that out when I was racing, and then Jarl Tyen, who was one of my teammates at the point, was like, yeah, no, I'm racing on a G27. I was like, sorry, what? Sorry?
Yeah.
What? I was like, at that point, I was like, even I have a better wheel than that. But equipment's not everything. If it's kind of one of those things like before you upgrade your wheel, if there is one thing to upgrade before any of that, it's the monitor. 100%. Get a monitor that can run at like 144 up hertz, and then have a PC that can run at that level, because that's what's made the biggest difference from my point of view when I've done my sim racing, because it just smoothens everything out and allows you to react to everything a lot faster.
Agreed, but let's make it clear, you can run with just the G27, a laptop, and that's it.
100%.
You can run more basic if you wanted to. And you can go full custom. You look at Max Verstappen's setup. I would not complain about that. But also, the great thing about sim racing is someone like Robert Wickens. What a story that is, right?
For sure.
From his horrific, huge accident to being able to run on the sim, build up his confidence with hand controls, and then go and do it twice in a row, winning a race. That is a storyline to be talking about. Kevin Ellis Jr. gets in front of Jordan Caruso as well, Alter slipping back. The move starting to pick up.
Yeah, I wonder if Ellis Jr. might well have made that move almost a little bit too kind of early. For him, he needs Jordan Caruso and Max Benecke to not make moves now, to allow him to close back up to that train ahead. Because if that gap starts going out to over a second and a half, suddenly this style of the train loses a slipstream, and then the top 10 are able to pull themselves away in their own separated train. Really important now for Jordan Caruso to kind of think about the pack and not himself right now. Think about the long game and play for the points, not for 11th.
I think he's probably more concerned that Benecke is looming large in that rear view camera, because you can see that the gap between Caruso and Ellis Jr. is larger than the gap between Benecke and Caruso. As across the line they come, 20 minutes or so left to go for these drivers before we go into that pit window. Ellis Jr. this time with the fastest lap. This is where the pace seems to be once they're released from Jordan Caruso. Can they start to express themselves for the rest of the stint? Have they done enough fuel saving to hit a number that they're comfortable with? You'd have to think if they've hit a number, then Kova surely are good, even though they're punching the hole in the air for themselves.
Well, I mean, to bring back the pace that we were running not 10, 15 minutes ago, they have turned up the wick on the speed because we were running 35.9s, 36s. We're running low 35s now. Obviously, all that fuel's burnt off. Here comes Max Beneke straight down the inside of Jordan Caruso, picks up the hairpin and punches his way up into 12th spot.
Nice and tidily done by the man with the highest I rating in all of iRacing, although 10k Beneke, as he is still now, 10k not as magical a number as it was even 12 months ago. Many a driver working their way up the iRating ladder, that is for sure. In terms, though, of breaking away at the front, Tumas Tatsela, with the pace that he's been displaying, last time punched in a 35.337, almost as fast as Kevin Ellis Jr., but ran a bit wide. It did not count as a fastest lap. You can tell the speeds, though, there for that 7.07, 1.5 clear of Sipala, who's only now 3.5 clear of Luka Kita.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if, you were saying that Kova, if they save enough fuel, etc., etc. We're going to find this out very quickly. Have they saved enough fuel? I'd be amazed if they haven't. That whilst their pace has been incredible, their number crunching, their balance is just as incredible. That lap, though, from Tattler, 0.3 faster than Matti Sipala in that car directly behind. The 707 is absolutely flying right now. But again, to also remind everyone at home, we don't know what tyre strategies everyone's running. And also, this is a 2-driver race. When we get to the hour point, they'll be, roughly around the hour point anyway, we'll be switching drivers. They'll be passing off to their teammates, and that can also affect the speed. This race is most certainly not over.
Trying to get word from Kova how the fuel situation is looking, but my usual source for information, Iku Merakala, has just picked up a brand new car to him and is driving home with it. We'll give him a congratulations, has done many of the content pieces that you've seen on BMW social media for these races over the course of the season. Instead, I'm trying to talk to Antiohola, who, like most racing drivers, is being somewhat difficult when it comes to giving us the information that we would love to be able to have. Only about 17 minutes ago, though, until we'll know for sure how drivers are looking in terms of fuel, what they're doing, what they're thinking in terms of tires as well. Let's grab another look at the weather conditions, because it's dropped down to 28 degrees Celsius on the track as we click on through the hours here on the virtual 1st of August. I would not be shocked if no tires is the winning call.
Yeah, the temperature dropping down, obviously that is kind of affecting the speed. That's why we're seeing them running so much faster at the moment than they were not too long ago. But I'd be leaning towards a no tyres as well. Maybe towards 2, switch out those left side tyres. But let's be honest, Hockenheim, it's not the most crazy tyre wear circuit. You've got all the way around here at the Parabolica. You're barely using the tyres. You've got the run off of the hairpin. You're barely using the tyres. You use the rears a little bit, but it's not insane. There's no sort of big tyre wear corners around here, with the exception of the stadium section, which is quite short. And once you pass turn 1, you're cooling them down again already all the way on the run around here. So it's sort of, it would lean more towards a no tyre strat, but who knows?
Anzi Hall is being very, very coy with me right now. Very, very coy. I love the gamesmanship from some of these teams and drivers. We're almost, though, into that period of time when we'll know. I'm trying to figure out what Anzi Hall is thinking of in terms of tyres. The reason why I want to know what the teams are thinking, though, Lewis, remember what happened when we talked to BS Competition. Was it the Nürburgring where they took no tyres, and Phil Dines told me full of confidence they wouldn't have done it unless they were good. Turns out they were not good.
They were not. I remember that line. I just remember sat there thinking,
oh, that's confident.
That might be a bit much there, bud. You're coming on a bit strong. But I mean, either way, a bit of banter. But still, yeah, you kind of got to have the awareness of where you are. I'm sure when he said it, that they believed they were fully in control of what was going on, and then maybe the temperature went up a bit too much. And that's the kind of thing, when you're not taking tyres, you are taking a bit of a risk, because you're taking the tyres on the conditions that are now, not the conditions that there could be, which are unpredictable. And it goes back to one of the things, I know this is more so towards wet tyres, intermediates and slicks, but something that Jensen, but always be on the right tyre for the conditions. Don't try and predict the weather, just go on what you're currently on.
Okay, I thought what you were saying was a lot more obvious than what you were actually saying. I was about to say what a great bit of insight from Lewis McLeod. Instead of throwing Jensen, I wasn't going to throw Jensen under the bus. I was trying to throw you under the bus. Turns out it wasn't working the way I thought it was going to. 1.8, the gap at the front. You can see visually that car, the 707, just looks more planted at this point in the run compared to Siepola, who's falling backwards. Of course, Siepola and Valtteri Alander won when we were at the Nürburgring. They've got a victory under their belt. They are starting to fall, though, into the clutches of Luka Kita, who maybe doesn't have the outright pace to match Tuomas Tatila, but seems to have enough long-term pace in the tires, maybe running to a number that's seeing him catch up to the 777.
Yeah, running quite well at the moment, but still losing a couple of turns. I'm just surprised the entire train behind has been remarkably patient. This tells me one of two things. Either they're sat there thinking there is no way Kova can make this, or they're sat there being, there's no way we can do the pace that Kova's doing right now. It's kind of like 50, sort of 50. I just don't know why no one in this train has sort of bitten off a little bit more ahead, has tried to make it stick. I think Sam Poiter might well make a move fairly soon on the current championship leader in British F4, Alex Dunn, at the moment on the race down towards the hairpin, because he was looking pretty close coming through T2 and 3 there.
There is the young Irishman up in front of Poiter, going to run down into the hairpin. No move there. It's coming further back where R8G and Altus. Caruso really sliding backwards. Mandanok will fire it up the inside. Caruso tried defending early on the straight, but once Mandanok was down on his right-hand side, that was basically done and dusted, the 88 up to 13th.
Yeah, nice tidy one, but again, there is an issue here, is that the gap is a little bit too big. It's 1.2 seconds up towards Max Benecke. So Jordan Caruso finds himself in a position like he was earlier, where he has to be more patient, has to think, actually, we need to get not only Manzanak, but also Scriven as well. We need to all sit here, all be a little bit patient, and all close up once again to Max Benecke. Because if we squabble over 13th spot, we're out of the points. We're not playing for anything this afternoon, and we are only focused on the top 10, on the point scorers, on the championship, rather than just the race in itself. It's about playing into those strengths and weaknesses and playing into the long game.
I know it's different commentating versus racing in these events, but I'll just bring up what I feel like has changed significantly for us since last year. Last year, we were always thinking the winner is the race to focus on. The thing we're focusing on is $4,200 being paid out in each of these races. However, with the shift to the championship-based schedule for 2022, the mindset, at least for us, has changed. Winning is important, yes. Being in the top 10, even more important. And we've talked about it end over time after time, almost beating the topic to the end basically, but this is very, very different. Bit of a check up there. Not sure what's happened to Alex Dunn.
Yeah, dropping back a little bit. One of the Monaco esports cars as well, making a little bit side by side here with Sam Koitit. Riker's made up a spot. Daniel Pazder as well is trying to get around the outside of Dunn, who's holding that defensive line into the arena section and will hang on. Don't quite know why he had such a slow run. Did he run a little bit wide and onto that sausage curb, which would slow you down just a touch on the exit of the hairpin? But I don't know why, as a driver, you'd be out there.
It was either that or it didn't shift. It was bizarre.
Potentially as well.
Very, very confusing. I can very much agree with you there. Let's go and take a look at this from up above, because this will give us a great angle as to the line that the Monaco esports car was taking. Nice and tidy initially.
Nah, you're right. Doesn't shift.
Just doesn't go. So
doesn't shift at all.
Right on board. Watch the revs on the left side. No, he lifts. It's not shifting. He just doesn't go.
There is definitely a technical fault here, because I know, like, normally our first port of call is a slowdown, right? But there's nowhere around here where there's a slowdown. You don't get a slowdown coming around the parabolica, I don't believe, anyway.
He could have got one on the entry right here. If you cut enough to the left, you could, but
he would have slowed down more than that on the parabolica, surely.
You'd do it on the entry, surely.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there is more. That seems like it was something to some degree technical in you know, it's a bit bizarre, and we all kind of know that if it's bizarre, it probably is technical. But Pastor sending it.
Down the inside at the hairpin, will Alex Dunn slide further back around the outside? He'll hang it tough with Diogo Pinto watching and lurking on the run up in towards that left-hand sweeper, that braking zone, which is so treacherous to try and go around the outside of. Will Dunn hold on? Will Pastor commit? The Williams Esports car tries it, opens the door for Diogo Pinto to work his way through to ninth. That's a move befitting of a world champion.
Yeah, cheers, thanks, Caleb. See ya, bye, and off goes Diogo Pinto. Obviously, he'll try and get past Alex Dunn quite quickly because the two Monaco Esports guys are being separated by a fair margin at this point, with Alex Dunn dropping off his teammate Elias Riker at the moment, so might need to close that one back down very, very quickly. But again, a reminder, we are only 9 minutes away from halfway into this race. It means we are racing our way towards those pit stops. We're not expecting them to pit before the hour mark. It's normally the hour and the 5 minutes that precedes it, or the 5 minutes afterwards. We don't expect them to come in before that point, because you play into way too much fuel strategy late in the race. You want to get that done early. Is that windscreen wiper?
It was a windscreen wiper, and I was just thinking, surely he meant hit the flashing lights button instead, because everyone knows that if you flash the lights, you gain some power, you get the car out of your way in front of you as well. It is starting to pick up, that is for sure. The tempo is getting up there. The excitement for these drivers starting to pick up as well as they work into the hairpin once more. Dunn has stabilized now, so maybe there was a, albeit temporary, technical fault. Those are the worst. Those are the most worrying, because you're now driving around for the next 7-8 minutes thinking, what if it goes again? What do I do differently in that situation? It's also enabled a bit of a breakaway. 5th and 6th, split by 2.3 seconds. All the while, the gap grows to the race leader.
I will just say that I've been having a couple of issues with my wheel recently, that sometimes it just won't shift, which I cannot describe. When you're doing a race, you're kind of thinking, what if it doesn't shift? When that gets sat in your mind, you are genuinely terrified, because it's not like, you know, you're playing like the SimK games where you can slap a rewind down, roll back and get on with it. You're racing against real people, live, no rewinds, no mistakes, no nothing. When that happens, any form of technical issue, whether it is your internet going slightly, whether it's, you know, you've had a couple of frame rate drops, you know, a bit of a screen freeze, your wheel technical issue, a clamp loosening on the wheel, all of that, it is terrifying. And it's why, you know, we always kind of say it as well on broadcast, is that making sure that your equipment is prepared is just as important as making sure that your lap times are good, that your setup is good. It all is a part of the preparation process, you know, as you would see from mechanics getting a car ready for an actual race.
And there's plenty you can carry forward from that mental preparation to the real world. That's one thing that Max Esterson was discussing with us last night on the iRacing Esports Network for Max Esterson's iRacing Challenge presented by Buttkicker. Yes, it is a mouthful of a name, but it was great to see Max back on Sims for the first time in a while, given his rather busy schedule over the last couple of months. And we talked to him about that transition, how quickly it happened, and how mental focus, mental strength is one thing that he's really been focusing on carrying forward, as well as, of course, the track knowledge that you gain with these laser scan tracks here in the sim racing world. 1.8 at the front between the COVID teammates. Tatler broke away slightly, has not been able to break away further in the last couple of laps. Urano back in third, holding up the third of the Kova machines, an Apex car in line as well, and then this group of 5th on back, which is really starting to just, you can feel it in the air. There's a tension brewing.
Yeah, it's kind of, we're racing our way towards that pit stop. We're getting there. You can see Dylan Scrivens has dropped off the rear end of this straight to about 2 seconds, so clearly hasn't been able to quite keep up with the pace that the likes of Jordan Caruso and Valentin Mandanak have been able to do to close back in for the most part on this train. But, bit of a mistake. Oh, there's more of an issue. There was more of an issue. Alex Dunn, I believe.
No.
He's gone straight on. Was that not done?
That's the other Monaco Esports car. And did they just get mixed up with Maximilian Benecke? Team Redline Red, back-to-back wins, and now retiring from the race.
What happened there? I mean, there was clearly some form of issue because he went straight on. I kind of wonder, again, if it might have been a technical thing, because it was very bizarre. There is Benecke. Now, they can stay in the race. They can bring it back to the pit lane and use the fast repair, but it would be too early. I think that car's retiring, and boom, it's gone.
That's done. That's day done. As soon as the damage was that significant, it takes too long to nurse the car back to the pit lane, and then regardless of the fast repair, you're too early in the pit stop window. One moment of drama has taken out Team Redline Red, and Beneke, he and I had a bit of a conversation a couple of weeks ago, where I put forward to him 2022, especially this BMW SIM GT Cup, has just not been going the way that someone like him would expect. Second at Sebring. Back-to-back victories, but other than that, struggles on the road to BMW Sim Live.
Yeah, started the season with just, if I remember correctly, just a point at the Daytona International Speedway when we began this journey at the start of the year. It's just, there's been big ups and big downs for them. And whilst you could say that was absolutely nothing they could do, I mean, again, we need to see it back once again, but whilst there might not have been anything they could do, you'd still kind of say, yeah, but you were still back in the pack, though, which is not where we'd expect them to be. The way to avoid that kind of thing, be third, be fourth, be where we would expect the red line red car to be, and then you kind of avoid most of it, not all of it, but most of it. It's an oddity, to be honest. We would expect them to kind of walk it, but they certainly are not.
First car down on pit road, it's the Altus Esports number 13, Eddie Purcell taking over from Ted Bradbury behind the wheel there. We watch as Kevin Ellis Jr., who has inherited a top 10 as a result of that moment, works on the rear end of Daniel Pastor, Diogo Pinto in front of them. Let's take a look at what happened here. Let's pick it apart as we work into the pit stop window. So Raika, well, just goes wheel left, basically, and then straight line, straight across the track. Pinto gets through, Pastor survives. The third of the, Kevin Ellis Jr. just about squeaks on through. It's Beneke that's got nowhere to go. We'll need a couple of onboard looks at this one.
Yeah, I don't, so the wheel is what...
What's he doing?
The wheel seems to be working. Is it not? Turn more left. I mean, I obviously I can't really speak too hard
right.
of bad rejoins, but still, I expect. I'm sure the boys are very critical of my terrible one on that Friday night. But still, why wouldn't you just turn more left?
Kevin Ellis Jr. just survived. Alex Dunn's into pit road, so is Jordan Caruso, so the pit stop window is open at this point. One more look with Kevin Ellis Jr., and then look rearwards, and you'll see the chaos that unfolds. We'll grab a look now on board with Beneke, because really, he had nothing he could do.
I mean, yeah, that's a bizarre. This is the thing, is that whilst you would also say from Beneke's point of view, you've got a lot of time to kind of react to a car being there. Well, for two things. Number one, you're probably not expecting a car to be there. That's a critical thing. And also, when you're in a train, you focus on the car ahead and the car ahead of that, and probably not that much further down the line, right? You're kind of focusing on what's happening around you, because that's the immediate effect. As soon as they're moving out of the way, you're kind of blind to this random car, which is in a completely different place. I will just hold back any major criticism of the Monaco Esports car there until we know what happened.
Right.
Because I would still say there is probably technical. Could have been, I mean, whilst it still has wheel and pedals, could have been the monitor turning.
Yes, no, which is actually something that just sprung into my mind before you were about to point it out. I've seen Pablo Castro midway through the carousel at Watkins Glen lose his monitor. Very entertaining. This, not the type of entertainment, though, that Beneke or indeed even Raika would have been looking for. So we work our way to the top of the hour. This time by Kova at the front of the field, continue to stay out. Williams Esports, though, becomes the first, along with Urano and Luca Kita, to dive on to pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in that sequence now where we're expecting to see more and more come in. Valentin Mandanak also into the pit lane. Thibaut Casabon also on the road. It is a bit busy there as we head towards the hour mark in this race. A couple of drivers have already been in, those that are further down in the order, but it is a busy time on pit road. The top two still leading very comfortably and still setting the pace of the field. The previous lap was the fastest lap of the race for Matti Siepeler, a 35.1. That is half a second faster than the likes of Ascari Rene and Jamie Fluke. Whilst obviously the pit lane sequence has started, it is a Kova 1-2-3, which does look quite nice in that tower.
Hey, you got to take the photo while you can, right? You take advantage while you're able to. Question will be undercut, overcut in terms of tires. What are they doing in pit road? We still wait to see when Urano and Alexei Nesov, who's taking over from Luca Kita, will roll back onto track. There you can see cars are going up on the jacks. Is it the cars that matter? That's really the question. Alexei Nesov drops and rolls 56.4, 2 tires taken there for Alexei Nesov.
Most doing 2. I think most are doing 2. We're seeing a lot of like the higher 50s for pit stops as we're seeing those come into the pit lane. This is Thomas Tattler, Matti Siepler stayed out. Interesting. Well, obviously he was behind, so we were saving fuel, so it makes sense.
But are these laps crucial for a slightly shorter pit stop to get the jump in pit lane? It was about a 2-second gap. Rene in as well. Siepler seems to be the only one to have extended over the Kova trio. Pinto goes 1 lap longer as well.
Yeah, indeed. So this is becoming, as we expect, a bit interesting, and you're absolutely right. Now, this is Matti Siepler that we're focused on here. We've not gone back to his teammate, who's obviously still in the pit lane, Antti Ahola now behind the wheel. This traffic is troublesome. These are all that have come in and made their stops. It's the issue with coming into a race where, for one, you're running really great pace, and for two, the lap isn't very long.
You're right, we've chopped off 3.5 kilometers compared to Spa, which is one of the longer laps that you'll find not just in this competition, but across of global motorsports. It's not to say this is a short track, it's definitely not as short as Barber, where we're expecting you break out 44 cars at the Barber Motorsports park. Yeah. Chaos will ensue at the start, at the middle, at the end. Basically, every moment of that race is going to be a spectacle. Ahola will take over from Tattler. Urainen will take over from Rene. There goes Ahola, 55.6 seconds. 2 tires taken, no risks being dropped here.
Yeah, I kind of like say, I get it. I think, to be honest, I think a few teams might have been scared after that Nürburgring round, right? When we had a lot of teams
race off a pit road. Alexei Nesov will battle alongside with the 770, and in fact will slide on through. Sorry to cut you off there, Lewis, but this is where those warm tires will enable Alexei Nesov to hold off the challenge from behind. Elvis Rankin, the young 15-year-old from America, takes over from Jamie Fluke.
Yeah, so this returns its way to the order they were pre-pit stop, at least in this sequence, but it kind of depends. Yeah, with a different driver behind the wheel, whilst things have been calm for the first hour of the race, do things change massively in the second hour? Normally they do in these battles, although we will say a lot of the time the teammates these days in sim racing, you team up with someone that has the same speed as you, so we don't see that much pace differential between the drivers like you would see even a couple of years ago.
Can see on pit road, Kova, Apex, Redline, all in. Alander taking over from the 777. Sanchez into the 98. Bennett into the 69. 3 very capable drivers have got the shortest pit stops on the cards for them here today. Maxime Briant will take the race lead, but he owes us a pit stop in the number 97. Antti Ahola working into the final corner. Valtteri Alander already off and rolling. Alander has gambled. No tires for the 777.
Interesting. Well, it only needs one gamble to at least, like I say, add some intrigue into the mix, and that's what we're seeing already this afternoon. Does anyone else jump onto that boat to try and make something happen, to try and force the issue when it comes to moving their way up the order to score an extra few points and, hey, maybe even secure themselves a little bit of that cheeky prize money as we're seeing them side by side off the pit lane on that run down towards turn 2. Big move from Apex trying to get past the Kovas.
Now will Alejandro Sanchez be able to work with Elvis Rankin to bully Lassi Urainen out of the way? Very short stop for Sanchez, almost 3 seconds quicker than the rest of the field on the 2-tire gamble. Will Sanchez be able to get on past Urainen? Rankin holds back for the time being, run into the hairpin. Sanchez down the inside.
Yeah, it makes sense because, of course, Sanchez trying something here, again, on strategy. So there is one through on that Kova car of Urainen. Just needs Elvis Rankin to also find his way past, and they will be good and gold. Alejandro Sanchez, though, not forcing himself to defend into the arena section. He was really sat there on the confidence that the Kova car wasn't going to instantly go on the attack. That is brave driving from a very experienced driver himself.
Maxime Briant will come to pit lane, so this time by, the 777 will take over the race lead with no tires to get back to the teammates. 11.5 seconds. I think the reason why the 777 feels confident to gamble is while they're outside of the top 10, with a victory on the cards for Siepler and for Alander, they can afford to try something slightly different. At worst, if they finish down in 7th, for example, which would be a long slide, a 20-second slide, they'd still have some good points. in likelihood, they'd still be in front of Antiola and Thomas Tatala. There's a reason for the gamble. The question is, will it pay off?
Yeah, this is the kind of thing is that as much as we're talking of the teams as a whole, Kova as a whole, you kind of, as a team, you need to focus on the car as a one, right? Just that one car, because we're talking about points, we're talking about drivers, we're talking about getting up yourselves in the order of the championship. We said it before, the top 10 of the championship are the drivers. There isn't a Kova driver in there. In the top 10. They need to focus on securing points, which is why maybe taking risks on a day like this might not be on. Urainen, though, might drop a position here because Elvis Rankin's down the inside of the hairpin trying to follow his teammate. A little bit too deep there from the Kova car. Might have to drive off the corner, but nope, Elvis Rankin has made the spot up.
It was the mistake out of turn 2 that set that one up. Apex now up to 4th and 5th positions. Slowly and quietly, the 98 plus 8 on the day so far. Kevin Ellis Jr. started off with a great single stint. Sanchez will take over. There's the fire from Luke Bennett to try and get past Urainen. It ends in tears. They carefully, though, go to the left side of the track. They don't involve anyone else.
Yeah, got to say, Lassie Urainen just drove straight into the rear of Luke Bennett whilst they were leaving that arena section. So not so great for Kova, who very quickly lose the opportunity of getting a 1-2-3.
Sorry. There has been a 1.3 second loss by Valtteri Alander on this last lap alone. Is that tyre related? More likely, is that traffic related?
Traffic's going to play its part, but still, we'll have to keep an eye on the times, whether those times are consistently low. That's kind of like the issue. Like you say, it was a 37.7, plays a 36.6. It wasn't exactly a lightning fast lap time from Antiola, but still, it was fast enough at the point where we were talking going into the pit lane. Seems like, obviously, they're a lot heavier on fuel now, and drivers are getting themselves into the rhythm. But heading into the pit lane, they were running very low 35s. At the start of the race, though, the critical thing, when they were heavy, when they were laden with fuel, they were running in the low 36s. So to see 37.7s and higher 36s, that is a little concerningly slow comparatively to the start of the race.
Do you remember, though, full tank of fuel on that car now as well, so it will very much be bogged down for the time being. Let's pick up this incident. Let's walk through it again. Yeah. Full blame on Kova there, I think you'd have to say.
Slam dunk penalty on Lassie Urainen. Just, you can kind of see it here. Luke Bennett's, it almost feels like he doesn't think there's a car there. Like, it doesn't know there's a car there. I'm not going to say that's not intentional. I'll go that far. He's not that silly. You can see he gives room here. Maybe, obviously, we're all driving from cockpits, right? So you have to on iRacing. It's a single screen, for some of these drivers. Sometimes you kind of assume that car has actually fully made the move, and then you try and drive back in line. There is an overlap. Whoops.
Yes. Unfortunately, though, Whoops does not...
No, penalty still.
Yes, exactly. Race Control will definitely take a look at that. Just before that, there was a moment into the hairpin. BS competition. I think it's fair to say turning around the RSR by butt kicker machine.
That'll be another slam dunk.
Although outside of the top 10, Race Control might not take a look.
That is true. But
Arturo Melgar. Now, Arturo Melgar, has he just been disqualified? We talked about this earlier. The Monaco Esports number 9 dropping down the timing screens.
Oh, big shame for Monaco Esports. They were looking so good earlier on. They had 2 cars up inside the top 10, and now they have Nil Poix from the day dropping right the way down. Technical issue, we believe, for one of the cars a little bit earlier in Riker, and now this to add to the list.
It is a disqualification, I can confirm it was, and that is ultra frustrating. Driver 1, we talked about this earlier, Johnny Vecchio left with 1 incident point to play with by Max Verstappen. Was it a similar situation for Arturo Melgar taking over from Alex Dunn? The word as well from Monaco Esports, we saw the moment right on the exit of the hairpin where Dunn basically just didn't go. It's like the engine ran out of fuel or something. It was a technical issue in the human. He elected to turn on the pit limiter.
Oh, F. That is an F.
We've seen that before. We've seen it multiple times in the ISO WC at Watkins Glen. Race Control was so unimpressed with one driver doing it multiple times, they gave him a rather stern warning.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's why I'm a little bit surprised at Watkins, obviously, but you know, circuits like here, obviously with the tight hairpin, with Long Beach as well. When you're doing like a hairpin where you're doing, you know, almost at least 180 degrees, right? Maybe even a little bit more than that in some cases. I know we're not racing in Formula E, but still, you know, it still happens. Your hands are kind of a bit looser with the wheel. It's very easy just to accidentally be able to use the palm of your hand just to tap a little button, to tap a pit limiter, and you only really realise when you leave the corner and suddenly it goes, you know, as you bang into the pit limiter, and then suddenly someone drives straight up into you.
That was a great impression of a pit
limiter. Thank you. It's true though, it does make that noise.
I think at some point we're going to have...
Factual.
Yeah, we'll have the RaceSpotTV. I'm trying to come up with a clever name, but it's not coming to me. Annual year of making noises into microphones about race cars. There you go. That was fantastic. Going back to the Watkins Glen thing just for a moment, by the way, the reason why I think that's more acceptable in that situation, not saying that what Alex done was not acceptable, just to be clear, but you remember in an Indy car you've got push to pass as well. You're wheeling a car that doesn't have power steering in an era of direct drive wheels. I can somewhat understand it, is all I will say. 8.5, the gap for the lead. Every lap, half a second here, 0.6 last time around. Valtteri Alander is sliding into the clutches of Antti Hola. I don't think he's just worried about second, though. Compared to Alexei Nesov, he's losing as much time. And with 48 minutes to go, it's a long way for the 777 to hold on. Knowing that,
you know, as the race goes on, the pace will drop off more and more for from those worn tyres, of course. I think Kova might not just be worried about maybe dropping off the podium or dropping out of the prize money. I think they might be concerned about dropping out of the points.
Yes.
Now, you might think to me, hang on, that's a bit crazy. That's still 30 seconds back. We've seen it before. We saw it at Nürburgring. BS competition, you brought it up earlier. They were very confident that we wouldn't have done it if we didn't have it. And yes, sure, they dropped back to fourth. But still, they dropped back very, very quickly in a very short space of time at the end of the race. They go off a cliff, and that could be what happens to that 777.
I tell you what, let's not trust our own math. I'll send off some messages to the paddock and we'll see which team is actually going to trust us now. Because unlike when I was trying to get some information out of Antti Hola at the start of this race, there's not much teams can do to react now. If I had told everyone the tyre strategy before the pit stop cycle, they could have adapted. You can't do that anymore. At least that's what I'm going to hope.
Well, I mean, we'll see that. We'll see. I mean, some people might still be like, well, actually, I don't want anyone to know because what if they start trying to react on pushing or speed or anything else? I don't know. But still, yeah, at this point, you as a team, if you've committed to 2 tyres, if you've committed to 4, if you've committed to none, you've committed. You're already there. You're already at that point. You can't go, oh, actually, we'll change it. There's no way now. We're already done with the pit stop. We're only 1 pit stop race in this. You've got to commit to your strategy. It's the whole thing the saying is, you've made your bed, now you lie in it. Yeah, and it's exactly this on strategy.
So the 98 up 8 positions into 4th. Kevin Ellis Jr., Alejandro Sanchez looking to secure more valuable points on the road to BMW Sim Live. Again, reminder, prize money is on the line here for the podium sitters. $4,200 paid out across of the top 3 teams. Your winners walking away with a cool $1,200 apiece. There is still plenty to play for, though, on the road to BMW Sim Live, when we will pay out, based on last year, over $100,000 for the best that sim racing has to offer. 7.6 the gap at the front, half a second being eaten out of that gap since we last checked in on it. It's closing and closing fast. What was at one point a 20-second gap to the top 5 is coming down as well. The question will be, what can Valtteri Alander do to hold on with tyres that don't seem to have much to be able to give him? And if we get to the end of this race and the 777 does not score points, that's one of those moments where you reflect in your debrief, Lewis, and you think, my word, we did it all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably, there's part of them feeling that right now, right? And this kind of thing is, it can turn into a negative feedback loop where you think you're on the wrong strategy, so you try and overdrive it, so you burn the tyres out faster, so you definitely think you're on the wrong strategy. And it's kind of like, it can really go from bad to worse to very, very, very bad very, very quickly. And it's kind of, you just need to get out of your own head, just drive the car and do what you can. Right now things are not looking very pretty though for Valtteri Lander in that 777 car, and you'd kind of have to ask, from a completely dominant 1-2 position, why risk it?
Well,
why would you risk it?
So I've just messaged Jamie Fluke, who is being more forthcoming, although would you expect any different from the nicest man?
He's a nice boy.
Nicest man in all of sim racing. He has no idea. He thinks the 777 will be good to them. Now, to the teammates, I think you can already say that ship has sailed. It's down to 7 seconds. We've still got 45 minutes to go. Oh, this is fascinating. This is why we love these strategy mix-ups that we never really got in the BMW M8. And Luka Kita, his struggles are being reflected in what Alexei Nesov is being put through right now, through the ringer of the Apex Racing team tucked up behind him.
Yeah, if there's a driver I don't want behind me right now, it is Alejandro Sanchez. As a driver that knows how to make a move. And again, this is the final position on the podium, the final position in some prize money, and you don't want to leave the day empty-handed, but we know that a lot of drivers and teams do. Oh goodness me, there's a little bit of a defensive move there. There's the big send from Team Redline down the inside. My goodness me, Redline versus Towline, banging.
Why do you think we came to focus on this battle? Just to emphasize the team name of delight for Team Towline, who are giving a bit of a toe to Team Redline, it must be said. Alexander Thieber, 14 positions gained. That's no contrast, though, to what Team Towline have done. 28 positions gained from the start of this race. Oh, that 14 car out here and having some fun. And while they're not up for eligibility in the 250 iRacing credits to be handed out to a random participant outside of this top split, if you're a fan of iRacing, you're not a member already, new membership's 40% off. You can join us and be part of the action in a month's time when we go racing August 14th at the Barber Motorsports Park. What a treat that is going to be. The Alabama roller coaster is now going to turn into the next stop on our train to BMW Sim Live. So still watching Sanchez and Rankin trying to work on Nesov. For Sanchez, I start to wonder if he maybe put in a little under what he needed in terms of fuel just to gain in track position. Maybe we don't see the Spaniard pushing until the closing stages of the race.
Well, as you brought up earlier on, they were 3 seconds shorter on the pit stop than those around them. So they gained an awful lot in that, like you say. The only real way that you gain it is by taking less fuel. Now, maybe you save more fuel on the first stint to put you in position to take less fuel so that you can reach the end on that, or you take a gamble and expect to save fuel over this stint. I kind of feel that it's more in that second camp. It's exactly as you were saying, that maybe Sanchez had to save a little bit, or has to save a little bit more fuel over this portion of the race. 10, 15 minutes left to go. Might start trying to attack and get onto that podium. But you kind of ask, maybe let your teammate Elvis Rankin through to try and do something now, try and clear off now, but you got to be selfish sometimes.
Through turn 1 they go again. The young 15-year-old Elvis Rankin competing this year in Skip Barber racing action in the real world after taking an opportunity on iRacing and grabbing it with both hands, victorious in his very first weekend of action. And even more impressive than Mikel Garda, who won the entire competition that gave the seat that Elvis Rankin is also competing in. 6 seconds the gap at the front as we wait to see if the Apex Racing team are going to get on the move on to try and work on Alexei Nesov. Nicholas Laubish in the second of the Urano cars, tucked in 6th with former teammate Luis Naja representing the Williams Esports 150 behind him. Florian Lebigre, Team Redline Purple, and then Lassie Urina, the rest of the top 10. With a move going on between 2 R8G teams. Andre Melcher's in front now of the R8G Juniors. R8G, after what we saw at the Nürburgring, Lewis, I think both of us kind of expected they had figured out this car. They had figured out what they needed to do to go fast. So dominant in qualifying with so many entries at the front of the field. Sliding backwards, though, at least here today in terms of qualifying.
Yeah, they've looked certainly less strong. I mean, they did drop back a little bit on the in that Nürburgring race as well. They didn't quite have the race speed whilst they had the quali speed. But here it doesn't seem they had to have really anything. They've just not really got the speed. Also, being critical of liveries, you know how I am. Not a fan of that junior livery. It looks way too close to a Logitech GLTC sports car, but you know, each their own. When you were like, "There's 2 R8Gs here," I was like, "Is it?" Oh no, it is. Oh, fair enough. Like it is literally a Logitech GLTC sports livery. You can see one in the foreground there.
I'm going to say you've got to get your eyes checked, because I can see a resemblance if I've just woken up, yet to put my contact lenses in.
Nah, it is, mate.
That looks very different to.
I prefer the R8G Junior that they had before.
Oh, okay, I see.
I think the R8G Junior that they had before this looked way better, but the standard R8G livery looks better than.
Just remember, you've now worked for Mr. Roman himself. You're not.
I've had
you're
a
not
chat
allowed
with
to say anything bad because you'll get in trouble.
And then, literally the day after I did that broadcast, I slammed the team for what they did. You know, I love R8G. I think, yeah. We've said this before. We said this at Watkins. We're a fan of most of the teams. There aren't really any teams in this competition or generally in sim racing that we're like, no, we don't like that, and that's not us just being broadcast and being cool.
Well, I'm not Luke Crane, and I can't make the jokes that he can make as well.
That's true. Yeah, I can't get away with that. No, I like most of the teams. Most of the people that I've spoke to from each of the teams, I enjoy speaking to. Yeah, it's there's a lot of good people in sim racing, whilst there are less good people. Most of them, to be fair, there's a lot of good eggs. We all just get involved in what we're doing and we all get a little bit riled up by it. But yeah, everyone's good eggs, but yeah, sometimes you just got to rip a team a new one on a broadcast for a bit of banter, innit?
Yeah, those bad eggs in sim racing. I'm talking to one of them right now. Like,
thank you, mate.
Stuck here
Will
for
Vincent
2 hours.
Really is, isn't he? I know.
Lewis McLean,
that's it, I'm fired
from RaceSpotTV, live on air. Will Vincent taking over from him. 38 minutes left to go. 5 seconds, the gap at the front between the 777 and the 707. Hand over fist, it is starting to come down. A further 10 then back, though, to Urano, to the Apex Racing team. It's close. It's close, what, 5 seconds in the last 20 minutes? At this rate, if the exponential fall off on the tires continues, the trio fighting for third. It's not a trio anymore, right? There's 6 cars in line. They're going to be right on the back of Valtteri Alander.
Also, well, speaking of Valtteri Alander, his pace, whilst still not great, and is still dropping back, his pace is coming down a bit. I know obviously his fuel's burning off and stuff, but it seems to be balancing just a little bit, where he was quite considerably. So a lot of the other cars running in the lower 36s, and he was running up towards the 37s, now running in the mid 36. What's it going to be over this time? You'll see there the graphic in the lower third as he'll run across the line. It's going to be a 36 something, but what? 36.5. Pace is getting better.
That is the best lap that he's had in a while, isn't it? But it doesn't compare to Antiola behind. The 36.1.
It's not good. I mean, they ain't winning the race on that pace, but I'd be more if they can keep this up. If Valtteri Alander can keep this up for the next 37 minutes, then, as you were saying, with Jamie Fluke and that I was saying about how they might be out of reach, I would agree with that. If they can keep this pace up, but we know what these cars are like. When the tyre goes, the tyre goes. Like, there is like no rescuing it. You lose like two seconds a lap.
We saw it kind of at Sebring, but remember the conditions that we had at Sebring as well, right? Were much, much warmer at a track that, to some degree, I'd even argue, puts a lot more load into the tire than we have here with fewer higher speed corners. Track conditions continue to drop, though. It was down at 26 degrees Celsius for a moment there. Maybe the fall off isn't going to be as bad as we're thinking, although realistically there's only one way to find out. That's to sit around and wait for the next 36 minutes.
Yeah, we'll hang on to that information and see where things go. Got a little bit of lapped traffic as well just ahead of the Urano here. That'll be one of the German sim racing cars, Christopher Hyman, that will be going a lap down on this whole group. Got to time it right though. I think they'll probably wait until around the Parabolica to try and allow that group to kind of pass. We don't want to let them go one at a time going through this sort of section, because it gets a little bit awkward, it gets a little bit messy, and yep, you'll probably be sent off to Narnia if you're not careful.
Ooh, where's the entryway to Narnia here? Is it the Jim Clark Memorial? I must say, iRacing have done a great job with this facility and replicating it. You got the Jim Clark Memorial at one end of the track, of course, where the old track used to go and wind its way around. this facility that's been open now for almost a full 100 years and counting. Quick update from Race Control, the incident that we had with Kova.
Thank you very much, Arjuna, and don't worry, Lewis, I'm not firing you anytime soon. You're better than me in this job these days. So quick update then on the incident between the Kova 770 and Team Redline Purple. We've had a number of looks at that one. It's worth noting that Team Redline Purple pushed off Kova a little bit the corner before, but coming into the incident that you saw, Team Redline Purple getting themselves on the curb, ready for the corner. Kova 770 just carried on turning left. That's why we had an incident, and because of that 5-second penalty for them, that is pretty much the only incident that will result in a top 10 time penalty so far. But of course, we are monitoring everything else. You can find out more information on the RaceSpotTV website.
So they'll drop down, at least provisionally, from 10th on track to probably 16th, but as soon as you drop from 10th, of course, the points, they fall away from you. That's what we'll be keeping our eye out. Front of the field down to 4 seconds. Alander stabilized in that 136, the mid 136s at this point, Lewis. Comparing the lap times, Alejandro Sanchez last time by, breaking into the 35s, 35.986.
Yeah, this is the concern. Again, remember, the end of the stint. Now, I wouldn't expect they're going to be that low this time because we think they've only taken 2 tyres. But remember, towards the end of the first stint, they were running in the 35s, right? They were running right the way down. As in, by the 35s, I mean like very, very low, almost to the 34s. And I don't know about Valtteri Landa. I'm pretty sure that car might be struggling to get even into the high 35s late on in this race. So, yeah, things are not going to be pretty for that 777 car, but it's Valtteri Landa behind the wheel. We know what this kid's like. He's pretty good at just keeping calm, keeping to himself, and just doing what he's doing, isn't it?
He's pretty good at doing things that he's not used to doing either. What was it? 2 previous open wheel oval races, goes into the ISOWC, heads to Fontana Auto Club Speedway, fighting for the win, coming to the line before almighty chaos broke out.
We won't go into that.
Instigated by Valtteri, yes, we should take a hard... He made a left turn, we should make a right turn away from the scene of the accident. But a very capable young driver. Has moved recently. He's not living where he's grown in sim racing. Has a slightly different setup. Not so sure about his internet either, but it's making it work. 3.5 clear of Ahola, who is now right on his tail. 10 seconds further back, of course, Nessoff and company with Sanchez, Rankin, Laubish, Najer, Labigra, as well as Bennett all there. And then a further 7.5 back to the 770, the penalized Kova entry. And even though we won't have 3 Kova cars inside of the top 5, I think it's fair to say today was a very good statement to start this race off. No matter how it ends, we know Kova are here to play.
I mean, I gotta say, Kova have done brilliantly. They're normally a team that have been well known in BMW Sim competition here on iRacing, where they've brought 1 car along, just 1, and they just bring the 1 car along, see what happens. Oh, they've won, cool. And they don't typically, well, until recently, they haven't typically brought along, let alone 2 cars, certainly not 3. But for the last few rounds, they've been bringing 3 along. They've been building up some of the younger drivers, the newer drivers, of course, the recent pickup in the form of Ascari, Rene, etc. They've been building themselves up bit by bit. The fact that they've had the pace to genuinely outright make the 1-2-3 has been impressive, as there's a bit of a dive down the inside of Luis Najer from Florian Labigra.
Teammates side by side. It's Luis Najer on Nicholas Laubish. Sorry to correct you.
Yeah, go back that way.
It's not rare that you make a mistake, but we always have to highlight it when we can. Still side by side. Now can Laubish cover the inside and maybe slide his way on through? Long way around for Najer. Still sticks there inside line on the run down into the stadium section. Opens the door for Labigra to come through as well. All sorts of contact and disqualification for Nicholas Laubish. Second time a car inside the top 10 has been taken out of the race in the moment of madness.
Yeah, I'm going to hold my hands up there. Genuinely thought Luis Najer. I was like, he's still your runner, isn't he? Oh no, of course he moved to Williams months ago. I'm still all these drivers moving around. It's crazy sometimes. But yeah, that one's not a pretty one, because that's, you know, one of those ones where you're like, oh, I only got a drive through because I was avoiding this and I was avoiding that. yes, that excuse never holds up, and it shouldn't ever, because you've had 25 instant points to play with in the race, not just one. Gotta say, I do think Lewis Nasher was a little bit naughty there.
So let's watch here. It's tidy for this part, and remember, like Lewis mentioned, you're not getting disqualified just for this moment. You're getting disqualified for all the moments leading up to this. It's not a one-time offense and you pay the punishment. It was a multi-time thing. So off of the corner, it's Nasher who gets the elbows out on Laubish. He gets forced over the anti-cut curve, and just like that, things blink out. It's almost like Thanos was there.
Yeah, like I said, it was a little bit, for me, it might have been a little bit naughty for Lewis Nasher just at this bit. Whether you could argue that's an overlap, for me, that is an overlap. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, you need like a full car, let him there. If he's there, he's there. And for me, that Urano car was there. But like you say, I wouldn't blame the DQ on Lewis Nasher there at all. For one, if you know that you've got one, or even in that case, it might have been the 4x for car contact. If you know you've only got a handful of instant points, though, you don't put the car in a risky spot. Control yourself, drive within the limits, and that kind of thing.
The first part you saw, there was 2 bits of contact. It's the second that got the disqualification out. The first would have been a 1 or 2x car contact saying, okay, you made minor incidental contact, be careful. And then the second bit was actually quite hard because Laubish bounces over the curve back onto the track, which he did have to do. He had to rejoin the track at some point, and because of the way that they were coming together, that turned into a 4x, bopped him over the limit, and I'm sure Nicholas Laubish is going to be one frustrated driver, although really you'd have to claim that in that situation he did nothing wrong. Racing incident, don't think you can say Lewis Nasher did much wrong either.
No, that's it. I think it was a bit naughty, but I think he was, that's racing. They're racing quite hard right there. And again, just to clarify, Urano have had the same. All of the cars have 25 instant points over the race. They've all got the same amount. If you're coming into this point of the race with just 4, you're asking for trouble. You really are asking for trouble. You want to be heading into this point with only really like 10 used by this point, so you've still got plenty to open you up to be able to take risks, to be able to try and push yourself a little bit more. If you're coming into it that low, you're not going to have a good time. What has happened between Urano, Altus and Apex Racing Academy?
It's at the hairpin, so I think we know what's happened.
Yeah, right. It's been a bit of a send here.
Yep. Now the question was from who, and who's come out the worst for where. Urano and the Apex Academy car still side by side. Matthias Jensen trying to fight on through. He overcommits, will open the opportunity for Joop de Ligt to come back around the outside, and he'll slam the door shut. You could tell by the body language of the car, not too impressed by whatever went on before.
Yeah, good little move from de Ligt, though, to kind of hang it on around the outside. But again, I get the vibe that there might be a little bit of frustration brewing within this camp as Logitech the Altus Esports car that is sat now, started this lap in 10th place, now runs in 12th. So I think there might have been a bit of a mistake going straight on. There is the move down the inside from Jensen, commits big time on the brakes. Whoa, yeah, that was a bit too much. I can understand why Deeth might be a little bit irritated.
Just a little bit. He was never making that corner. He had no hope. No hope without the assistance of this man, the 43 of Cody Deeth, on board with him as we see the second part of this little bit of drama up and under. That was wonderfully done by de Ligt. You just saw the opportunity present itself, confident around the outside to get on the power, avoid the anti-cut curb, and slam the door shut, saying, you know you did a naughty thing there.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, though, that was a lovely move from de Ligt. A big shame for Cody Deeth to have had to drop out so much, and I think might have to save a little bit of fuel. He was lifting very, very early into the hairpin, I just noted. But still, that was a great move by de Ligt. Let's focus on the positives there. That was a brilliant hold around the outside. Like you said, it was brave, it was confident. And both cars well within the track limits. It takes 2 to tango, and Jensen did right, at least on that occasion.
Matthias Jensen, of course, part of Trondheimskolen, a boarding school that has a sim racing program. Man, I grew up about a decade too early. I can only imagine how much trouble I'd get in with my parents if I was in a sim racing program during school. It's a great opportunity that Trondheimskolen presents to its students, and Matthias Jensen, part of the Apex Academy, the program that has developed drivers of the ilk of Kevin Ellis Jr., Sebastian Jobe, and Zach Campbell, all winners at the World Championship level. It's great to see them doing it again in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to say, though, that race lead under a second now. Ooh, I am not feeling this for Valtteri. The win, again, win's gone. The win, in my opinion, has set sail. That one has disappeared. But if the pack behind close it and like starts sending the speed up a little bit higher, yeah. I am not a massive fan of the gamble when you're in such a strong position. I just don't think it was needed.
Still 10 seconds clear with 25 to go.
Sure.
So it was 20 seconds at about an hour to go. So trending in the right direction, although trends have this irritating tendency to go all sorts of haywire when you need them to be stable. Deef loses another spot. Carlos Fenalosa started off the other Altus car. He was in all sorts of trouble. Jordan Caruso in the 43. Slight contact with his teammate, albeit air-assisted. Handed over to Cody Deeth, who is now back in 13th and in front of the RAG Junior car. I don't know how you can say those two liveries look the same.
What, the Junior and the
they're totally different.
No. I'm pretty confident in saying they're close enough. They're the same colours, isn't it? Look, let's be honest, and I know you'll be like, speak for yourself, but still, let's be real here. Us as commentators, we're not exactly the most intelligent of the sim racing pack. No, it's true though.
Hey, I know that 1 + 1 = 3.
Exactly. Why do you think we don't run strategy for anyone?
Why do you think we don't drive? I think that's a better question. Here it comes, though.
Yeah, I know why you don't drive.
Yeah, is this going to be the move for the lead? The 707 to the inside, teammates side by side, but it's nice and easy. Antiaholo will take over the race lead from Valtteri Alander. 2 tires, gets past no tires.
Yeah, that was never going to be difficult, really, for Antiaholo. Valtteri Alander knows how to play the team game. You could see that if Valtteri Alander, if this was like a lap to go, Valtteri Alander might have sent that one straight back down the inside into the arena. We're way too far out. There's no way. They've not got the pace. Cova need to focus on winning this race. They can try and get themselves a 1-2 by not losing too much time here. That's a smart move. This one also a bit bold, as we've got a bit of a move from Alexander Thebe trying to get down the inside of one of the RAG Junior cars.
Deeth has lost out not just to the RAG Junior car, but to Redline Ice Blue as well. Tiba will get both of them in just a corner and a half on the run down into the left-hand sweeper at the stadium. It is Alexander Thebe up to 13th and working his way closer and closer to valuable points. Remember, Urainen with a 5-second penalty will be dropped down the order just in front of Thebe as it runs right now. That's the trend to be watching out for. Gap for the lead already up to a second, so already you can tell just how significant tires are going to be. Alander only 8.5 clear of Alexei Nesov. The pressure is well and truly on for the 777 to hold on and survive to the end of this race. I mentioned Trotzaskol and I mentioned Matthias Jensen. There's a look on board with the Apex Racing Academy driver. Unfortunately, because, you know, there's this thing called summer holidays, he's racing from home and not in the sim room at school.
Yeah, boring. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I remember looking over, because this was a few, I think it might have actually been the 24 at the start of the year.
Yes.
I can't remember what it was, but I remember I was looking and being like, are they in Corby? Because it was a room of simulators, and I was like, hang on a sec, because like Apex, but I'm like, it's not the same room, and so I was very confused for about an hour and a half until you brought it up, and I was like, I can't remember who it was you brought it up, because obviously you went on comms there with us at that point, but someone brought it up, someone messaged it, I was like, oh, it makes way more sense now. I mean, it's so cool, but yeah, that's a thing, but still, it was confusing.
It was quite funny back then as well, because the program was relatively young at that point, and so they had rigs, but not all of them were the same. Some were slightly better than others, if you catch my drift. And so I always wondered how did the person that got the best grades in the homework get the best rig, or how did you decide? Now it's easier. Now they're all the same standard rig, which I'm sure makes the excuses a little bit harder to come by, but what a wonderful program it is, one that we'll be tracking, of course, through the next several years as the likes of Jensen and others in the program develop themselves, develop the next generation as well. Sim races are just so young nowadays. It makes me, at 28, feel old, which is rather crazy to be thinking about. Under 21 minutes to go. Ahola leads from Valtteri Lando, 1.2 the gap. The further 7.6 to Alexei Nesov. The train is coming, it's coming fast.
Yeah, it really is closing down. About another 0.7 of a second that lap. At this point, it's going to be close. If it continues at sort of 0.7 of a second a lap, it's going to come down to the last lap of this race, and I still don't think it's going to work out in favour of Valtteri Lando. I think they might drop off even of the podium at this point. I don't think they'll drop back behind Elvis Rankin, because there is a bit of a gap dropping back there between Alejandro Sanchez and Elvis Rankin, between the two Apex racing team teammates. But yeah, for me, Valtteri Lando's dropping backwards a little too fast. He needs to find some speed in the final 20 minutes of this race. And by the way, speaking of the whole old thing, every time I feel a little bit old, I do remember that you're a lot older than me, so that's fine.
I'm not that much older than you.
Much older, so much
Not
older.
that much older than you. Making me feel bad now. It's okay. No one feels worse than Paul Smith. At any time we're on an iRacing Rallycross World Championship broadcast and I bring up the fact that there's a 13-year-old in the field and Paul Smith's like, yeah, I know, did you have to keep rubbing it into my face? Yes, I did, especially when that guy then went and won a podium, the youngest ever podium winner in iRacing World Championship history. It's a year, 12 months, I should say, for history in iRacing. Of course, new World Championships coming to join the fun. We had the IR01 last year. We have, as they're colloquially known, the Jumpy Trucks World Championship Series. That is the most fun that I've ever had in sim racing on Wednesdays, and our first female iRacing World Championship competitor. Many more things, of course, to bookmark 2022 for iRacing. And while we have these BMW SIM GT Cup races that count technically, I guess, as part of our iRacing special events, we're a couple of weeks away from the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa, but we're a week away from a very special event, the second annual iRacing special event in partnership with the National MS Society. It's time for the Peachtree 3. Say that one 5 times fast. It is a race at the Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Will be live on the front page of Twitch, where the likes of Chad Knaus and even Nick Ottinger and Steve Myers will be teaming up in a charity race where you can donate to cause chaos. It's going to be fun. Make sure you join on the iRacing Esports Network for all of the action. We've done these sort of charity races before, Lewis, where we give incentives, right, for people to be good to be bad, if you get what I mean. You and I came out on the wrong side of that equation in Jimmy Broadbent's charity race last year. You and I.
Goodness.
Proper grammar. Look at me.
I wasn't even that. I was like, I'm just sort of, me, I was not involved. I had to pay the bill for all of you lot, though. Oh, getting very naughty. The amount of $5 donations I had to make because you lot are making so many. I think the events are great. It's one of those things in sim racing, where
we're breaking out the wallet. All that GB3 money's got to go somewhere.
Thanks, mate. In sim racing, we're in this sort of unique scenario where we can have an event like this, like an endurance race, whether it be 3 hours, 24 hours, or whatever, or a sprint race, where we can have a bit of fun with it, but we can put on a bit of a show, we can have a race, we can also have a bit of entertainment, we can get money coming in for an excellent cause, and these are happening more and more. And I think they are incredible opportunities to kind of support these charities. I am all for them. They're all light-hearted. They're all a bit of fun. I will say that Zolder race is the worst race that I've ever taken part in sim racing, and I loved it. Oh, it was great. It was so much fun. Terrible race, though. Yeah,
some of the jokes that we said to try and get out of penalties are definitely not safe for broadcast.
That's true.
To be fair, some of them are just not safe at all. There's no place.
No one laughed at mine. Apart from me.
I think my
favorite
part was when Reese Gardner started reading a bit of fan fiction that is definitely not safe for general broadcasting purposes, but put a cap.
That's the point.
It's the point. Exactly. The 23 Hours of Zolder is now becoming a ritual on RaceSpotTV and for, of course, Jimmy Broadbent's community. Hopefully this Peachtree 3, again, say that one 5 times fast. It is a tongue twister. The Peachtree 3 will be something that we, of course, have for many a year to come. That's this coming week. The featured race is Thursday evening in the US, but more time slots available through the course of the weekend, and then the following weekend it's the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa. What a legendary track. GT3 cars only, a big field, storming around twice around the clock. All live here on RaceSpotTV. Should be a fun one. Lewis, 15 minutes to go. 3 seconds between Ahola and Alander since the move has been done, and the gap behind down to 5.6. Like we're saying, like we've been trying to point out, it's coming down. Valtteri Alander has 15 minutes to try and find a tenth or two of pace.
And he has kind of found, I mean, it's not so much that he's found a tenth or two, it's that the pack behind's losing a tenth or two. The last lap time from Alexei Nesov was a 35.991. The last lap time from Valtteri Alander was a 36.567. So about 0.6 of a second between them, which, if it keeps on that pace, might just be able to hang on. You've got to remember, though, these are quick laps around here, about 1:30, you know, just over 90 seconds. We don't have too many laps to go around here, but still, it's not a comfortable spot when you're in Valtteri Alander's boots, but he can't be looking at those gaps, right? He can't be panicking about that. He's got to focus on what he's doing and nothing else.
It's where the top level differentiates itself. You have good, you have great, you have the best. The difference is mental fortitude, the willingness to bounce back from difficult situations, the willingness to embrace the discomfort that sometimes comes with top-level sim racing. Quick update from Race Control.
Hello again, everyone. So we've got 2 incidents that we've reviewed recently. One of them is rather easy. That is one between Williams Esports Chill Blast and Urano Esports Hawaii. That's the one, of course, we saw Urano Esports get themselves DQ'd from the race. Yeah, it's their fault. They got themselves in the incident limit. Racing incident, no penalty will be issued. The more interesting one, we saw the Apex Racing Academy dive bomb for the ages with Altitude Sports Blue. There is now distance between the 2 cars under normal circumstances. We'd like to say we give the place back, but we can't. So instead, they're going to get a 2-second penalty. They are currently outside the point, but they are chasing down Urano Esports HP. And I'm going to give it a go here, Arjuna. Peachtree free, Peachtree free, Peachtree free, Peachtree free, Peachtree free.
So that's your race control update. Not much really involving those up the front, although Thijs Jensen and De Ligt still side by side battling for what technically is the final points paying position, but will word trickle down to the Apex Academy that they've got a penalty to be thinking about. Melchers will have a lob down the inside of De Ligt on the run into the arena section, will squeak on through. Those two really, though, fighting for not 10th position, potentially even 9th.
Also, good effort from Will Vincent there, by the way, on the attempt of saying Peachtree 3 5 times in a row. That was a good effort, but great effort again from Andre Melchers to get down the inside. Joop de Ligt could have done something a little bit on the exit there, going into the stadium section as well, but didn't try it. Kind of lifted out of it just a little bit more than maybe was needed to try and not force the issue coming down towards the Sachs curve, but still, I mean, that was a brave move from Andre Melchers, saw the opportunity and pounced.
Now, going back to Alander for a second as we ride on board with the Urano 92, I don't think he's in as much trouble as maybe we initially thought. Now, of course, Elvis Ranking, Luis Nager, and Florian Lebigre have all slipped backwards in time. At worst, I think Valtteri Alander is thinking about the fact that he'll give up a podium position, might still be able to hold on to 4th. We'll have to wait and see. There was a swap around. Elvis Rankin has dropped down to 7th.
Yeah, I think it was just down into the hairpin. A nice little keep move from Lebigre, just getting a little bit aggressive at this point in the race. Obviously trying to make up some spots. It's where I'd assume it would happen based on where they are at the moment on the circuit. So it makes sense. Whilst we say there are plenty of overtaking opportunities around this circuit, it is that run down into the hairpin, which is always the easier one. And for R8G taking on this lovely new livery at the moment, they want to, to obviously continue using it, but to really kind of get into the rhythm of using it by ticking off some great results. Do say it does look very good on this BMW M4, but I don't think they can get much more than 5th from this race.
Agreed.
So if that's the case, 5th it shall be.
I think at this point that is what they're thinking about. with 11.5 minutes left on the clock. This livery looks good on the jumpy trucks as well. Wednesday evenings, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific here in the US. It is by far the best World Championship action that I've seen in recent memory. Cars rubbing doors and actually getting away with plenty of contact in a way that you wouldn't want to see any sort of World Championship cars usually bumping doors with one another. We very much welcome you to join us on RaceSpotTV for that. Quinton Dalomo representing R8G Esports. Maybe we even get Mr. Grosjean himself out there for the All-Star Invitational that kicks off the evening's entertainment. Between Alander and Nessoff, it is down to 3.6, and last time by, it closed by, well, just about 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, pace once again. Like I say, that train behind Alexei Nessoff just turning the knife in a little bit more, turning the pace up as we head into the final 10 minutes of this race. And Urano looking stronger and stronger. Like you said, it wasn't the fact that it was just a 0.7 difference. Valtteri Alander set a decent lap time in a 36.4, but Alexei Nessoff did a 35.7. Car behind Alejandro Sanchez, 35.6. The two fastest cars on the track at the moment. Those two sat in third and fourth. They are charging at the moment to try and close down on Valtteri Alander.
I think Alejandro Sanchez still has something to prove in this 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup. We've seen him have pace. We saw him put it on pole at Daytona. However, one mistake coming into the pit box at the end of what was almost a perfect stint dropped Apex out of the chance to fight with Team Redline for victory at the start of the calendar year. Since then, it's been up and down, and while there are points on the board for Sanchez and the Apex Racing team, there is still no victory. There is no dominant, decisive performance where we go, okay, this is Apex, this is Sanchez, here to play. Today, you get the sense that while qualifying might not have gone their way, they've had to work their way forward. This is the statement after second place at Spa a couple of weeks ago that Apex are figuring out this BMW M4.
Yeah, and you've got to remember as well, when it comes to these positions, second, third and fourth, well, if Alejandro Sanchez times this correctly, he could, at the moment, be leaving this race empty-handed when it comes to prize money. He could be leaving it with $600 with two very well-timed moves. Timing is everything, though. Go too early and that gap won't come down enough. Go too late, well, you're not there to make the move. Timing is critical in a race like this.
And the other thing is, there has been a number of incidents. I'm not going to be the first to sit here and claim that it's been a totally clean race. However, you compare it to Watkins Glen, for example, where I feel like we looked at plenty of replay. It cleaned itself up at Spa. It's cleaned itself up here again. We're in this trend where race control, to some degree, is making these races a little bit cleaner is probably not the right word, but it's making some of these drivers think about their decisions more than they've done in years past.
Which will make them better drivers, right? That's the thing, is that if you just go guns blazing all the time, then you're going to get yourself into trouble more often than not. And that's not just with race control, that's just with other drivers. You make yourself an enemy, and then every time you go racing with these, they're like, oh, I'm not going to let that guy through. Meanwhile, if you're questioning what you're doing, if you're questioning whether this is the dive to go for, or whether you should actually think of a better opportunity where it's a bit safer, you're using race control to make you a better driver. You're constantly learning, and I don't care what level of sim racing you're at. You could be brand new to sim racing. Hey, you could have plenty of iRacing World Champions under your belt, Josh Rogers and that lot. There is still always things to learn from racing. Even from a side of mentality, even aside from approach, there is always something to build on.
I don't think at any level of racing you're ever the complete driver, whether it's like adjustments to your driving style that you make to suit a car, whether it's a recognition that a teammate's found a better way to do something than you have. It's all about constant evolution. In fact, that's true across of whatever you do. No matter what industry you're in, constant evolution is the walk of life. Antiola has walked away 7.5 seconds clear with less than 7 minutes to go. It's looking like a second victory in 2022 in the BMW SIM GT Cup for Kova. However, it's the previous race winner, the 777, that is coming under fire. 1.5 the gap back to Nessoff.
Yeah, it's still not good right now whilst we're in those final few minutes. I don't think that car's finishing on the podium. I'm going to say it now. Kind of hinting around it a little bit earlier on that their pace is going to struggle a bit more as the race is going on. They're still running in the 36.5s with Valtteri Lander. Obviously, as the tyres are dropping off, those two behind, 35.5s, 1 second faster over the previous lap. I think they'll be safe to the train behind, but it kind of like, if you're Valtteri Lander, right? You've got two choices. You fight these two behind, you might lose more time, it might drag that train in, and you might end up losing an awful lot. You let these two go, you're almost guaranteeing yourself 4th place. What do you do? Do you play for points or do you play for money?
Well, coming to the line with 5 odd minutes to go, with lap times being in the 135s, the 136s, we are running out of laps, so you could afford to throw the anchors out, to play the aggressor at this late stage of the race. I don't know if that's necessarily the strategy to go on. Although, when we talk about the strategy to have been on, it's clear, unfortunately, the gamble has not paid off in taking no tyres the way that they would have wanted in that 777.
Yeah, but I say sometimes you take a gamble. I mean, this is the thing, whilst it's all well and good saying, we'll learn in practice and stuff, we'll try these things in practice. Sometimes take a gamble in the race and learn from things in the race. Whether they'll make this gamble again on another round, they probably will. Sometimes you just got to give it a go. But I definitely think they're going to lose second position here on the run through the Parabolica down to the hairpin, because that Urano Esports car is charging, and they want to build a little bit of a gap. Will Alexei Nesov over the Apex Racing Team car of Alejandro Sanchez if they can? Is
this a chance for Nesov to get that breathing room? Into the hairpin they go. The Urano car has a look. Half commits, fully commits. With Alander giving the space, Urano will slide up into second. Valtteri tries to slam the door shut on Alejandro Sanchez. Holds on to third for the time being.
Watch out for Sanchez, though, to send it down into the arena section. He knows he wants to keep up with Alexei Nesov here. Close into that arena section. There's the look to the inside. There's the commitment. And there is Alejandro Sanchez. Classic racing driver stuff. Said that Kova might be dropping off the podium. There they do, down to 4th position. And Alejandro Sanchez up into 3rd.
Wasn't even a thought there for Valtteri Alander to fight that one back. Now it's all about Nesov and Sanchez. Final steps of the podium. The final places that pay out prize money here today. They have cleared themselves off from Williams Esports and the company behind in that battle for 5th. It's a brawl for 2nd spot with a couple of laps to go.
Super stuff. I mean, this is the thing. Racing around here does typically deliver. I know we've had a bit of a calmer race than maybe expected. Certainly calmer than the 16-car finale that we had in Season 2.
Crazy when you say that.
Like I say, you don't require a 45-car grid to have a great race. The 16-car grid there, of course, they were all finalists. It wasn't 16 cars because we didn't have anyone show up. It was 16 cars because they were finalists through the season to get themselves into BMW Sim Live, and the racing was sensational. And in this, we had it proved then. You only need 2 cars to have a good race, sometimes 3 or 4. We're having 2 cars here battling over 2nd position. I am absolutely sure Alejandro Sanchez, a driver who you said before has something to prove here, will try and make something stick at some point in the next couple of laps.
He was a standout 2020 in the World Championship fold as MSI Esports partner with the Apex Racing Team. That relationship has taken the next step. Sanchez now part of the Apex Racing Team, doing big things in motorsports nowadays, competing with the likes of Aston Martin and their esports effort. Today, though, it's full focus on the road to BMW Sim Live. Next time by should be 2 laps to go. Sanchez still trying to find a way past. Nesov looks comfortable enough.
Yeah, I mean, like they're on the same level of tyres, on the same level of grip. They're on the same level of speed as well, running in those 35.5s. They're looking very, very comfortable right now. Valtteri Alander, by the way, who obviously did a 37 on the previous lap as he was letting those two through. Letting, obviously, in big air quotes. As he did that, Luis Naja did a 35.4. Fastest car on the track at the moment, closing right into the rear of Valtteri Alander, lapping what would typically be, on standard speed from that Kova car, that 777, typically around about a second faster. Well, the gap's around 2.6.
He's 1.3, 1.4 a lap to be able to get it done. And even then, to catch is one thing, to pass is another, although you saw the ease with which Nesov and Sanchez were able to slide on through. Don't discount Kova from maybe even falling into the clutches of Williams and R8G, who have broken away from Elvis Rankin for the Apex 99 and Team Redline Purple. Diogo Pinto handing over to Luke Bennett, who's done a solid job in the second stint of the race. Coming up into the hairpin once more, Nesov in front of Sanchez again. No look forthcoming from the number 98. Traffic might play a factor. We might be in for some last lap fireworks once more.
Hey, it might give a little bit of assistance to Alexei Nesov. That is the team tow line car. The tow is exactly what Nesov might require at this point. I've got to say, they did miss an opportunity in that team tow line car because it's called Team Tow Line Red, and it is bright green. So, you know, each to their own on that one. Great colour, but not so sure the intent is there, but still might help out.
R8G's number 8 down the order and pushed down, I would assume with some contact in front of him. Tiba, Delict, Delict's been side by side into that corner more times than I can count at this point, probably more times than I have fingers. Will have the inside this time and try to slide his way in front of the ice blue Tiba powered machine. Melchers takes the advantage, trying to look down the inside.
Alexei Nesov was super wide at the final corner as there is the move. That's a great one. Whoa, big moment there from Tiba. Big flash of lights as well. I mean, to be fair, I think he just overdid it himself. Great stuff from Melchers, who, I mean, you said before, yep, the Licks has been side by side a few times this afternoon. Well, I mean, so has Melchers. That is too deep, though, for Delict.
Yeah, well, Delict may be feeling a little bit frustrated as to how his race has unfolded. They are coming, though, to start the final lap of the race. Antiohola has run away from the rest of the field, dominating at the front, but the battle for second is where the eyes will focus, where prize money is on the line. $300 difference for each of the drivers. One braking zone could decide it all. Long way around for Sanchez. Will try the up and under on Alexei Nesov.
Yeah, it didn't work there. He was obviously in way too deep. He was trying to get the drive off to get him alongside in the arena section, but that drive off from Alexei Nesov was absolutely beautiful. There is going to be a look here, but Nesov's going to defend it, and obviously Sanchez has got to send it around the outside. There just isn't the grip out there. Too many marbles, and there's just not enough space for him to get through.
The track's going to tighten up from here. Is there even an opportunity for Sanchez to have a look? Maybe the entrance into the arena. Sanchez backs out of it for now. Couple more opportunities to go, but this battle for second will come all the way down to the wire. And Sanchez with a lunge around the outside will commit, but too little, too late, as Antiohola at the front of the field makes it two Kova machines with victories in this 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup. The road to BMW Sim Live is painted black here today.
Super drive from Kova, absolutely on it this afternoon. Could have been a 1-2, and that is what they'll be ruining post-race. But Valtteri Landa does at least keep Luis Naja at bay across the line. But my goodness me, it was not by much, just over a tenth of a second. That is how close they got to losing fourth.
And it looks like Alexander Tiba got disqualified on the final lap of the race. It was an argy-bargy kind of affair. Plenty of drivers risking it. The separation between Elvis Rankin and Redline Purple to the line, 0.06 of a second. After 2 hours of racing, 44 cars whittled down to just 26 that will finish on the leading lap here today. It's Kova, though, jubilant once more. Ahola and Tatala with 25 valuable points in their quest to make it to BMW Sim Live are well and truly on the board. Urano and Apex hold on second and third. Alejandro Sanchez not getting on through, but a performance he'll be proud of.
Got to say for Thomas Tatala, we brought this up before. Was when Kova won earlier on in the season. They'd won in 2020, 2021 and 2022. Well, Thomas Tatala now, because he wasn't in that car earlier on in the season. Thomas Tatala's won at Road Atlanta in 2020. He won at Imola in 2021. And now in 2022, he puts his name onto the crown here at Hockenheimring as well.
Nice place to have won. Not as much last lap shenanigans in terms of moments that had implications for BMW Sim Live, but there was plenty of entertainment up and down through the field here today. We started off nice and tidily, which is how you want to start every race. It got a little bit more chaotic through the course of the strategy cycles. It Kova, though, will be delighted with this victory for Antihola and for Tuomas Tähtälä. Let's run you down through some very unofficial race results, because lots of things are going to change here when Race Control has their final sweep through of the result. One thing that will not change, though, is Kova at the front. The 707 grabs victory once more with Antihola. Tuomas Tähtälä, multi-time winners now in this BMW SIM GT Cup. Alexei Nesov second, holds off the chance and the attack from Alejandro Sanchez in the number 98 car, one of our bigger movers, +9 to get up onto the podium. While Valtteri Orlando, the gamble for no tires did not pay off the way he wanted. From second before the pit stops to fourth at the end of the race. Luis Najer for Williams Esports Chill Blast will come across the line in fifth to continue some good momentum for him and the Williams Esports team. RAG and Florian Lebiger right behind him. The Apex Racing 99 car beats Luke Bennett and Redline Purple by a photo finish margin to get into 7th spot. Urainen will be penalized, so will the Apex Racing Academy car. It will change things up in terms of points, paying positions, but as it stands right now, it will be Andre Melchers who will work his way up forward, potentially Joop de Ligt as well. 11th and 12th scoring points here today. Nicholas Rubelar for Arnage Competition in 13th. Another tough day for the pink, white and black after one of their cars involved in the shenanigans at the start. Urano 14th with a second Arnage machine. The 115th on the road. Cody Deeth for Altus Esports in 16th slid backwards in the second stint of the race after taking over from Jordan Caruso. Gael Valero in front of the Williams Esports Academy machine. Felix Quirnbach and Jesse Jones make up the rest of the top 20 for BS Competition and RSR by Buttkicker. Many strong names behind with Zenith Esports, Visceral, RAG and even Team Redline Ice Blue. 26 cars on the lead lap. Rafael Rizag the first one lap down, with RSR by Buttkicker, Pure Sims Esports, and the aptly named Team Towline giving a tow to many of the competitors here today. Williams Esports, German Sim Racing, Visceral and Altus, one lap down, with a couple of cars 2 laps down before we get into the graveyard of cars. Many retirements, maybe none more significant than Team Redline Red and Maximilian Beneke involved in all sorts of drama with Monaco Esports. Likely some technical issues playing its part here today. So 2 hours of action, and it is your pole position winners that convert into victory lane. We're standing by now with Antihola and with Tuomas Tähtälä. Let's start with Tuomas, and let's start with the start of the race. Tuomas controlling the tempo of this race, coming into the hairpin on lap number 1. What's going through your mind?
Nothing much. I just wanted to push hard while saving fuel at the start. Yeah, just driving to the fuel number we had to do, and that's really it. Just also try to push hard to drop the other cars from behind. So and that worked. So made it much easier.
It felt a little bit like going back in time to Road Atlanta 2020 when you broke away at the front of the field, hit a fuel number and controlled the race. Very similar today. How easy, how close were you to that fuel number being the one punching the hole in the air? How much work was it to do the fuel saving?
Yeah, at the start I was not hitting it. Constantly had to remind myself to save more fuel. But yeah, hit it at the end. Obviously it becomes easier when the car is lighter, so yeah. And still managed to drop my teammate, which helped our race a lot, so yeah.
I'll bring it over then to Antihola, who took the second stint of the race. Anti, a bit of a gamble from the 777 to take no tyres. In your mind, was 2 tyres the obvious call?
It was a bold call, that's for sure. Nothing to take away from the sister car, because they tried that, and obviously it didn't sadly work out. But we have been trying to make or trying to find out which would have been the obvious strategy here this time, and the end result speaks for itself that 2 tires was the winning strat. So nothing much they can do about it other than take it as a lesson.
it was a rather quiet second stint for you, so instead I'm going to ask about the strides that you guys have made with this M4. You've been quick in it since BMW SIM GT Cup went to this car midway through 2021. However, with 3 cars inside of the top 4 in qualifying here today, it's clear that something has clicked, something has switched. What's been going on preparation-wise behind the scenes?
Yeah, the whole team has been pushing hard pretty much through the entire season, just trying to extract the maximum of the car and ourselves in it. And finally it seems that the hard work is paying off, so we just have to keep this momentum going.
Antti-Ahola, Tuomas Tätälä winners here today, although maybe not in my heart. Antti-Ahola making my life very difficult as I try to get some information about the strategy of the race. Always good to talk to our winners, get their insights, although a typical Scandinavian fashion, they don't sound very excited.
Yeah, easy day at the office, pretty calm, just like, yeah, cool, race, cool, happened, we won, nice. I think they might be a bit more excited if they win next time out when we go to Barber, which is a very different ballpark to go racing at.
It is the Alabama roller coaster. So much elevation change here. In an open wheel car, the Dallara IR18, the Indy cars, it's very, very difficult with over 600, 700 horsepower. With these cars, the challenge going to be very different. Controlling the weight of the car as you work through the various sections. Down the hill, how much curb can you use both on the inside and the outside, down into turn 7. It's going to be difficult to pass, but you're going to have to find ways to do that. You have to find ways to save tires. You have to find a way to save fuel. You have to find a way to adapt to the challenge that Alabama will throw at you.
I mean, we're both IndyCar fans, so we love a bit of Barber. When we saw this on the calendar, we were like, this is crazy, this is absolute madness, can't wait for it. I've raced a few different things around here, a couple of touring cars, some Clios even once. It is a racetrack that delivers on quite a lot of aspects, not just in open wheelers. Whilst, yes, overtaking can be a little bit tricky, it is a track that bites, and we won't probably be talking about DQs at Barber, we'll be talking about crashes.
Don't say that, because
I think you'll crash before you get a DQ.
You'd hope so, but it is surrounded by grass. It is one of those tracks where dropping a wheel off every once in a while is very, very possible, especially when you push over the crest coming up onto the run into Charlotte's Web at turn 5. That race and every race live on RaceSpotTV on BMW Esports. Join us on August 14th at 1 p.m. UTC for BMW Sim Ignition with Matthew Sadekis Trivet before we jump into the racing action for BMW Sim GT Cup. Only a couple of rounds to go. Lewis, who has stood out to you as a standout name so far?
It's tricky, because I'd have to say no one. Because it's one of those things where, as the rounds have gone on, start of the season, Apex looks strong. Then BS Competition looks strong. Then Redline looks strong. Now Kova looks strong. No one's really grabbed the top just yet. Now, carrying the momentum from this point on, carrying it into BMW Sim Live is going to be critical to work their way forward and take some money from that all-important prize pool.
Here's one more look at the schedule. Barber up midway through August, and then it's just Silverstone and Suzuka on deck before all signs and all roads lead to BMW Sim Live at the end of the year as we finalize our winners and losers of a year of fascinating BMW esports competition. But for now, though, it's time to wave goodbye. After a busy couple of weeks, the BMW Sim GT Cup will go into a quiet slumber. It will be awoken in the shadow of the Alabama roller coaster when on August 14th we take to the Barber Motorsports Park for round 8 of 10 in this 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup. Another fascinating race, another dominant performance. Today the storylines are all about Kova. Antti-Ahola and Tuomas Tätälä celebrate as winners here from the Hockenheimring, and we bid you farewell with a fascinating evening of racing under our belts. We'll see you next time here on RaceSpotTV.